Okay, let's get to the Tennessee Minute. We've got Arian and Big T ready to duke it out. The one-stop shop for all the hottest takes regarding Tennessee Volunteer football. Two experts on the mic. Arian, did you watch the game?
I did not.
Okay, what do you think about Tennessee football, having not watched the game?
I'm pretty sure they're in the same boat as last time we talked about them. Not very good. But, they played Florida, right? This is the third week of they played Florida, right?
Yep.
They lost, didn't they?
They did lose, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be the case.
Played pretty well for a half, though.
What was the final score?
We lost 38-14, but it was 17-14 at halftime. And it was 24-14 in the third quarter. We had a 4th and 5 in plus territory, drew up a perfect play. Jimmy Callaway dropped it. He had 30 yards of open field in front of him. That was our last chance, but we hung in there for a while. It was a lot of poor execution, but the coaching I thought was pretty good. So we got Missouri this week. Big game in Columbia. We get that when we're back on track.
So what are they? 2-2. 2 and 2.
Yeah.
Still fighting.
When you say back on track for what exactly?
I would love to get to 7 wins this year. I think 6 should be the realistic goal. Get to a bowl game. That'd be a good first year.
Are they doing the thing where like everybody's bowl eligible again this year?
No.
Okay.
No.
What bowl game do you want to go to? Have you got a couple start with the Beef O'Brady's?
I mean, at 6, your options are pretty limited.
Yeah. The Tire Bowl, there's always like 3 different tire companies.
The Liberty Bowl has wanted Tennessee forever.
Yeah, Meineke Car Care. Yeah, cool.
The Liberty Bowl has wanted Tennessee forever.
They try to get Tennessee every season because they know UT fans will go to Memphis and buy tickets. They got 3-win Tennessee last year, and then we backed out because we had COVID.
3-win Tennessee.
Yeah,
so they finally landed you guys last year.
Yeah, and then we didn't go.
So, shout out to the Liberty Bowl,
It's like
high standards.
Yeah, listen, Liberty Bowl, they knew what they wanted. They've got a type. The Liberty Bowl does.
No, they do.
And she wears orange. And it just so happened that she's a captain of the cheerleading team, and she kept saying no to us until she like sprained her neck in an accident and then had to go around wearing one of those cones around her head. And her stock was low enough to the point where she would finally say yes and go to the homecoming dance with Tennessee.
And then we still didn't go.
And then the dance got canceled.
Yeah. So Liberty Bowl, Birmingham Bowl, something like that. Just get me to a bowl game. Let's beat Missouri. We'll be fine.
Okay.
What is Missouri right now?
They are also 2-2. They're a 3-point favorite at home.
Yikes.
All right. Well, Tennessee, they win this game. They're back on track for the Liberty Bowl.
Correct.
That's what we're shooting for. What if they played at the Arizona Bowl?
It's not contractually possible, but it would be awesome.
Okay, why is it not contractually possible?
It's the MAC against the
That's right, yeah.
Mountain West.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay. It would be awesome.
Would be sick.
Okay, well, we're hoping for the Liberty Bowl, and that's the Tennessee Minute. Good breakdown. Also, Tyler Barron had 2 tackles. That's what's really important. Tyler Barron showed up again, 2 tackles. No sacks, but still played well.
Stock going up.
Watch out. I don't know if we're going to be able to afford an Instagram story from this guy. Like, give him 2 more weeks. He's going to relegate us to, like, Snapchat.
Damn, we're going to be on his Snap.
We're going to be on his Snap. We're going to be on his Yik Yak. What else is there, Billy? What are the other?
Peach.
Parlor. We're going to be how much for an
if he has a parlor, I would like to formally withdraw my submission to sponsor him.
What if he's on Parlor like trying to fight the good fight? He's just deep in it. Trying to dissenting.
I don't care why you're on Parlor.
He's like trying to convince the QAnoners.
It'd still be very, very funny though if, in the interest of just generating as much money for himself as possible, he signed up for every single social media platform and had like a menu ready to pick out. Okay, it's $500 for a Parlor shout out. I'll reply to a Rudy Giuliani post on Parlor for $250, and I'll usually be in the top 5 responses, so you'll get a lot of engagement there.
Big T, you on Parlor?
I'm not.
Did you think about getting an account?
If Twitter keeps going down the road it's going, I might look into it.
it's very sexy.
I mean, listen,
it's appealing. It's very appealing.
they're not going to stop. They're just going to keep, doing
They're
their thing.
They're gonna keep banning people that say dumb shit. I agree.
You think that's a good idea?
Yes.
No, that's how it starts.
That's not how it starts.
What you deem as dumb shit.
Demonstrably harmful shit. Demonstrably
harmful.
Demonstrably harmful.
What is considered harmful? Because now we're just in a subjective.
Anything. Well, you got to draw the line, and Twitter draws the line. So you have to be able to demonstrably show that this can cause harm or be discriminatory in nature. Like we have discriminatory laws that went through the Supreme Court. So it's like this is not that even. It's not even that controversial at all. Actually,
okay.
It's just that usually right wing people, they're not used to getting pushback, and now they're getting pushback, and now it's a freedom thing.
Well, it's always going to be a line somewhere. If you're on Twitter, you have to understand that there will be a line. It's not ever going to be totally free speech, because you can't get on Twitter and be like, hey, I'm going to kill the president of the United States.
Well,
right?
So when we're talking about demonstrably harmful shit, Kathy Griffin posting a picture with the severed head of a sitting president, is that demonstrably harmful?
No.
Okay. Then this is insane.
Yeah. No.
How's that insane?
No, I gotta side with Big T there. Like you can if you Google on Twitter like violent stuff about Donald Trump, it is ridiculous.
I was offended just because I think that Kathy Griffin sucks. It had nothing to do with the content. I just think that she sucks.
Explain to me how a severed head in an obvious parody about Donald Trump is
an obvious parody. Well, if we're having a discussion about subjective things that are harmful, I would say that's a pretty overt.
This is what it is. I think people from your background totally take out historical context in the societal norms. Like you just take out the context of everything and just be like, you can't judge A for A and B for B when you're talking about a diverse society with multiple variables and moving parts. You have to take in societal. It's just like if Big T, I was to call you a cracker, it doesn't have the same ring as if you was to call me a nigger. Why? Because there's historical context behind that matters.
Sure. So what's the historical context of posting the severed head of a sitting president?
You have to explain to me why it's harmful.
I think I'm in favor of letting anybody do whatever the fuck they want and let people draw their own conclusions on what's harmful and what's not. I don't want subjective lines drawn by the people making the rules.
Can you right now go into a movie theater and start screaming fire?
That's such a bad example. We're talking about
why?
Because that is putting people in danger.
No, but
that's not the same as a
what
political.
The sitting president was doing on January 6th wasn't.
That's not the same thing as expressing a political opinion on a platform that is now so critical to having your voice heard that I would argue it's almost
who's getting deplatformed for just having genuinely just having an opinion, not trying to kill thousands.
Alex Jones.
Bruh, we literally had a podcast on Alex Jones.
No, he's crazy.
Why the shit, but the shit that he said. But this is why the shit that you say, and if you're advocating for like medicine that's unproven, if you're advocating for stuff that can harm people, like you can't have that. Like you can't have that. Like or else like the opposite is in the world that you want to live in is it's just a free reign. And this is how you I think there's two sides of the coin, right? Censoring, quote unquote, censoring people will absolutely embolden people to feel like they're being oppressed, right? With free speech. But if you don't draw the line anywhere, then you're going to just have congregations of people that just are doing evil shit online, which is why they regulate the internet in the first place. So you don't think there should be any regulations for the internet at all? Or just Twitter?
You shouldn't be able to go on the internet and say things like, if you're talking about saying, I'm going to go kill somebody, I'm going to do this, that, and that, you shouldn't be able to threaten people. I'm talking in terms of political opinions.
I think the real solution to it is
Billy got a solution. Talk to me, Billy.
One, you have to ensure that everyone's accountable for what they say online by basically not allowing any more anonymous accounts. Like everyone has like words have to be put to someone's name.
I don't like
How
that.
do you make? How do you have?
You don't. I know you don't like that.
I think it's a bad idea.
How do you make sure there's no anonymous accounts? How could you even?
Some sort of regulation of the internet, but then from there,
do what you have to do. Do what you have to do when you make.
You
He
have
was like, someone else will figure that out.
no, but hypothetically, let's say everyone has maybe some blockchain connected to their internet presence. If you have any sort of almost like a social security number, if you're going to create an account on anywhere, you have to put in that number that sort of holds you accountable for what you say, and then from there you can say whatever you want. I like that's how like the world works. Everyone has an identification card, so like, you know, if you go start yelling about whatever in the middle of the town square, everyone's going to be like, oh, that's and then it'll make it less scary, because then people who say those crazy things will be, you know, seen as the village, you know, crazy.
But then you walk a fine line of like doxing people. I don't think you should dox people. So,
well, I mean, you can know their presence online like is not exactly doxable.
I think doxing's such a new phenomenon. Like, we used to get a phone book delivered to your front door with everyone's name, address, and phone number, and you had to pay them if you didn't want to be in that shit. Like, this idea that doxing some great crime is such a new phenomenon that I find so fascinating.
It's just that people are so much like more scared of people on the internet for some reason.
We're terrified to be
yeah, exactly.
So, like, for the record, I'm not an advocate of what Kathy Griffin did. I think it was corny. I didn't even laugh at the shit, right? But I think there's a very real threat when people are pushing narratives that are discriminatory in nature versus a parody. Like, if you really think Big T, like Kathy Griffin, wants to behead Donald Trump, like, you think?
No, and I think she should be allowed to tweet that if she wants to, just as I think anybody else who wants to espouse an idea that you might find to be abhorrent and whatever, I think anybody should be able to say what they think.
Well,
as long as it is not, if we are talking about threatening someone with actual, I'm going to come to your house and kill you, no, you should not be allowed to do that.
All right, in the case of Alex Jones in particular, if he's out there saying like, hey, these kids at Sandy Hook did not actually die, they were crisis actors.
That is an abhorrent thing to say.
Right. No, I get it. But what I'm saying is, like, and he did recant that after he got all the pushback and lawsuits.
And he got sued and lost.
He got sued and lost. But at the time, he was very much saying, hey, this didn't happen. Look at all these conflicting news reports. Look at the parents pretending to be sad. There weren't any kids that were found. This was a fake psyop set up by the government, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When you're saying things that are that inflammatory and pointed and broadcasting them to an audience, that is certainly believing every word that you say. If you were to believe that the government is pretending to kill kids in order to personally come confiscate your weapons, wouldn't that also imply that, like, you should do something about it if you actually believe that?
No, I don't think that's true.
He was saying we need to do something. He was literally saying we need to do something about it. Stand up.
We can take things that are like very clearly like so far beyond what a reasonable person would find acceptable. I'm not willing.
There were millions of people that used to be reasonable.
You know what's interesting about that?
Hang on. Let me finish real quick. I'm not willing to be the person to draw a line and say this is what is acceptable discourse in society and this is what is not. And I think the Overton window has shrunk to a point that now there are things that I find to be perfectly reasonable that you just aren't allowed to express on a social media site, on a podcast, do whatever now.
Yeah, go off. This is Big T's problematic corner.
You know what's interesting?
Oh, I like this.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let him cook. Billy, let him cook.
Yeah,
no, that's all I had to say.
This is safe space. It's safe space for you.
Safe space.
I'm not going to be the one. I don't want to be the person who is deciding what is and is not okay, and I don't think the people I don't think Jack Dorsey should be that person either.
Okay, but
why do you stop at the internet though? Why not societal laws? Like why do
like what?
Anything. I mean, abortion. We regulate abortion. We regulate like first degree, second degree, third degree murder. Like we have all of these.
We have agreed as a society it is not okay to kill people.
this is where we're at. This is a baby. This is in its infancy. The internet is in its infancy. And what we're starting to see is there are things on the internet that can be said that can be viewed as harmful and has the
to
potential.
some people. We do not all agree. We all agree you cannot kill someone.
That's not true. We don't agree on that.
He will kill people every day. Clearly, there is not an agreement there.
But the rest of they understand there are consequences to those actions.
I don't think
Self-defense, capital punishment. We do not agree on murder at all. We do not agree on taking human life at all.
If you have a drone that does it, you can do that too.
Right.
100%.
If you have a tiny flying robot and you press a button, that's technically the robot killing you.
If you really believe that we didn't think that murder was okay, no matter the human life, then we wouldn't have a euphemism called a casualty of war, right? We would hold those people accountable that sent those drone strikes or sent those bombs that killed innocent bystanders. We would hold whoever pushed the button, whoever orchestrated that should be held accountable. If you agree that human life was as valuable as you say you do.
That's not what I said.
Now,
what did you say?
I said we agree that if you kill somebody, we have a set consequence to that action.
We don't, Big T. We do.
Like who is we don't?
Is there a consequence to casualties of war?
So
I'll do it improperly, yes.
Last week, I think it was last week, in Iran, there were 10 people, women and children that got killed in a drone strike. What happens? Has anybody been arrested for that?
What are we talking about? I don't know what.
Yeah, no. Keep the main thing, player.
They do a lot of compensation.
You said we had.
Kind of fucked.
Here's a gift certificate.
Yeah.
You said that we agree on taking human life, right? I'm just giving you an example, like a casualty of war, where we take human life that should not have been taken.
I said we agree in the United States if you kill someone unjustly. That there are consequences to that. That's not the same.
As long as them niggas way overseas.
No. You've twisted this. You've taken this and done a squeeze with it. There are far fewer people who agree that, like, if you say something, I'm trying to think of what an opinion would be that I think you would say, yeah, you shouldn't be allowed to say that I think a lot of people would agree with. But there is just no. I don't think people running social media sites that are supposed to act, they want to be treated as platforms, and they're acting as publishers.
But aren't you a libertarian? You're a libertarian, are you not?
In some respects.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but the libertarian take is the free market should set its own.
Well, and that's
value,
what, right? Twitter can do whatever it wants, and if it starts to do it to enough people that it becomes an issue, you will have things like Parler, and then maybe one of those will overtake it. I don't think it's the right thing to do.
But I think the point you're missing, and I could be wrong, Big T, but I think the point you're missing is that the free market is saying the overwhelming majority of the CEOs that run social media platforms are saying there's certain amounts of speech that the people are not okay with. That is the free market at work.
I don't think that's accurate. I think there is a very vocal minority that thinks that. I mean, what percentage of the U.S. is on Twitter? Like 2, 3? Like
very small.
Yeah. Maybe
Facebook is way bigger. Facebook I would say.
Yes, but 30, the people 40. Running these tech companies are a very intellectually homogenous group of people that.
I don't think that they are. I think that
I don't think that's
real quick.
For the most part, I think Jack Dorsey is like an ultra libertarian. I don't think that at all. Jack Dorsey is not a liberal. Jack Dorsey is at all.
But I don't think he even.
Some people think because he bans certain conservative people, they're like, oh, he must be a liberal. Jack Dorsey is not a liberal guy.
I agree.
Jack Dorsey is yeah. What's up?
I don't think he has I think he gets more pressure from in-house on all those issues, because I think he was quoted on saying that he might want to make 2 Twitters. One's like the Wild West, like what Twitter he wanted it to be, like total libertarian, say whatever you want. Then one like censored Twitter.
Yeah.
So
he's afraid of lawsuits is the thing. Like anytime you get your company to a certain size and you have people practicing free speech to the fullest extent of their speech, you're going to open yourself up for lawsuits because you're big. And if you're not moderating anything, then guess what? You can be held liable if somebody does get on your platform and says, hey, everybody, let's show up to Newtown, Connecticut at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning and let's bring our guns. And then something happens. You can.
That's already a crime.
I know, but
You
I'm
don't
saying,
need
no, Big T, I agree. But I'm saying that if somebody were to do that, then Twitter would open themselves up to lawsuits and people would sue them if something bad happened, because it's like, hey, you have this massive platform. You knew that they were using it to organize a big rally. Why didn't you do anything to shut it down? And I don't think any courts would, or juries for that part, would listen to, well, it was their right to say free speech on our website, so that's why we didn't stop this riot from happening.
Well, they open, Arian, back to what you said to the libertarian thing. If Twitter wants to act as a publisher and choose what content goes on its site and what does not, then it opens itself up to lawsuits for things like that. If it wants to act as a platform and say we're not responsible for what other people say, that's totally fine.
Buddy, they would get sued out their asshole if they just said we're a platform. If they didn't moderate anything,
but when
and they were as big as they are right now, they would not be a company anymore because of all the lawsuits that would come.
Well, that's fine. But if you're choosing what goes on your website and what doesn't, then you are responsible for what's said on there.
No, that's why they regulate it.
And that's fine if they want to do that. But then
you know what's
hold on, Big T. I think the bigger point is, I think you think all these tech company dudes are like super liberal and hella left. They're not. They're capitalists. They're free market capitalists. And what they do is protect the bottom dollar. If a bunch of people on their platform don't want a certain kind of speech, they're going to acquiesce to that. Society is skewing right now a little bit left. And that's the world you live in. You live in a world like where the only way conservatives can win elections is if they gerrymander it and they voter suppress. That's the only way, because the majority of people in America.
That's not true. That's
okay.
Flagrantly untrue.
Look at the map. Look at the voting map. Look at every single
Democrats
state.
change districts when they're in power, and it's time to redraw them too.
I agree 1,000%. This is not an indictment on just conservatives with gerrymandering. Gerrymandering in practice harms democratic I don't want to say democracy, but democratic voters more so than it does conservative, because where it's more prevalent is in tight-knit cities and close quarters, right? And so you draw those lines, and that's where the majority of voters on the Democratic side are, because they tend to be in more cities. It's the rural areas where they're not as gerrymandered. They're very blocky out there, right? But the issue is the majority. You wouldn't agree that the majority of the country leans left? You wouldn't agree with that?
No.
That's interesting.
I think, and I think it's often Democrats who want a popular vote for president. And
why is that?
I think what you would see is, if there was a popular vote, there are a ton of people who live in New York, California, places like that, who are relatively conservative, who don't vote because it doesn't matter, who would vote, and it would be just as even as it is when it's not.
When's the last popular vote Republicans won?
2004.
It's almost 20 years, my G.
2004, yeah, that's right. It was Bush Kerry, right?
Yeah.
It's almost 20 years.
And then before that, Al Gore won the popular vote, and then Clinton won.
And then he invented the internet.
And Bush in 2004 was like when coach on the hot seat drafts a rookie quarterback. Like, you can't fire him year one. Like, you got to give him a cut. Like, he'd just started that war. We couldn't get rid of that guy mid-war.
That's actually like a good way to look at it. Like, in retrospect, that's exactly what happened. He was fucking up his rookie season, but it's like, hey, listen, you're going to fuck it up worse if you get a new coordinator in his ear and have him relearn a different offense in year two. Like, that's a recipe for disaster long term. So it's a good thing that we got that straightened out and maintained consistency.
I think the best way to do this would be, like, to regulate the internet, would have, just like you do with regular laws, just have like a panel, right? A Supreme Court internet panel that can regulate and take these cases, because this is a totally new, and have them be young too. All these 80-year-old motherfuckers, they cannot be in on this. But it's like, have like a panel of, we just clone Billy, like 8 Billies, and we have them vote on certain on these issues.
Like,
because this is,
it's like
it just ain't going away. What is that?
Like the precogs from Minority Report. Have you seen that movie?
Oh shit! Yeah, that shit was fire.
Yeah, we just get six
Yeah.
Billies floating in a tank of salt water with their brains hooked up to electrodes. I actually think society would be a much better place. It's that meme, like society if all the laws were controlled by Billy while he was hallucinating.
I'm actually quite, I feel honored that you guys think Ada me would be able to be the good arbiter of the internet.
Yeah,
I don't.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't think
The
that.
incels would be running the show tomorrow.
Oh shit!
They'd put the pressure to Billy, and they'd be running the show in hours.
no,
I
but
think you're pretty unbiased, Billy. I think you're pretty
I
unbiased.
appreciate that.
he is. But precog Billy would also be like he would be an incel.
I would
Because
not
he'd-
give in to the insult.
Because no, precog Billy would be an incel because he'd be
You'd
trapped
have to be.
in a
I
fucking
think
isolation
it'd be
chamber.
voluntary. It'd be a vol
Yeah,
cell,
it'd be Volcel.
Also,
which is
yeah.
what we call Big T.
Good one.
The precog monastery. You gotta commit to this
What-
life
Yeah.
of celibacy.
Yeah, what kind of pill is that you take if you're a Volcel? Is that like the green pill,
It's
the beige pill?
it's an IPA.
Yeah, you chug the IPA, you grow tits.
Yeah.
It'd just be Billy with tits. Six Billies with tits inside a tank of salt water.
You know what is interesting? Going back to Alex Jones, Sandy Hook, and all that misinformation. So I played Newtown Sandy Hook in a bunch of modified sports growing up. So like I knew before it all happened, I knew it was a real town in a real place. And I was talking to a bartender the other day who's from the area, and we were talking about all this stuff, and I was with someone from out of town. And when the bartender was like, "Oh, I grew up in Newtown," the person from out of town was like, "Oh my God, like Newtown," because that's the only reason they know the place. And we got talking to him, and I know this is, he said, she said, but he said that most of the people who would come to Sandy Hook, to Newtown, to investigate and sort of like thought it was a fake town and thought the whole thing was fake were mostly people from outside of the Northeast who couldn't conceptualize a town that they've never heard before.
Mhm.
And because you could manipulate, and honestly, I was thinking about it, these theories about how like, Australia doesn't exist,
It's
Finland doesn't
fact.
exist.
Fact.
Well, that same thought process is what caused a lot of these people to actually believe that the town's fake. It was crisis actors, because they just, when you're so far abstractly removed from it, you can't conceptualize. And that's probably one of the biggest problems with the internet is you can't conceptualize the fact that there was a town there. It was real. Those were people's kids because they were too far removed from it.
Yeah, the best thing that the internet has really shown us is that people's confirmation bias is like a hell of a thing, and people love to think that they're smart, that they are in on something that everybody else is dumb about, that they have like the master knowledge to the universe that everyone else is too dumb to see. Whether it's like, yeah, Australia doesn't exist. The Finland thing is hilarious. The Finland's just like, it's because of Japanese fishing rights or something like that. It's just a
Right,
giant
like
body of
Cold
water.
War.
Yeah, that's a great theory. But it's just people that want to, they get off on thinking that they know something that nobody else knows. And it usually comes from just being very dissatisfied with their personal lives and unfulfilled. And there's a giant hole there that they fill with hatred towards the outside world. And then they use that knowledge that they think that they have as another reason to reinforce themselves to be like, I'm better than all these people. And one thing I've noticed recently is, here's the thing. We need to teach classes in terms of obviously internet literacy, but more importantly, in how to recognize confirmation bias in yourself, because it's tough sometimes.
We do.
I saw that article that got sent around a couple weeks ago. It was like the emergency rooms in Oklahoma are unable to treat like stab wound victims and gunshot victims because they're dealing with people that have like overdosed on ivermectin, or the very good scabies medicine for scabies. And it was going around like crack, and all the libs were retweeting and being like, see what we've done to America. Like, this is so sad. And I recognize, because like, obviously I do believe that you should get vaccinated. That's probably the best way that we know of right now to beat this virus. But
Libtard.
yeah, but when I saw it, I was like, this seems like crack. Like, this seems like something that you would get a liberal lab rat addicted to in a maze and like when you're teaching it not to touch the electric thing to get shocked. And it like almost fit my confirmation bias too strongly. And then I had to dig around for like 5 minutes, eventually found that the story was total bullshit. But it did have like 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 retweets on it at the time. And but I'm sure 9 times out of 10 when I see a story that I already agree with, if I don't, go the extra mile to look into it, I'll just believe it because it makes me feel good. And that's a very tough thing to try to teach people. Like if you're like a teenager right now and you're getting, you're mainlining the internet for the first time, like the pure, uncut, unfiltered internet that you weren't allowed to have, from your parents. How are you going to know what's real and what's not real? You're probably just going to believe the stuff that already fits into your preconceived world mindset.
I mean, this is probably one of the most recent examples of that was when everyone was talking about the Wuhan lab leak hypothesis. Because it came out, people were saying it in November, December of 2019, like on Twitter, and there was tons of misinformation on the whole thing. Like, do you guys remember seeing those videos of people like just passing out, like in China, and like they're all wearing masks and people just falling down in random videos, and like people are dying on the street, and there was so much misinformation because of that. And then fast forward, if you'd mentioned that to someone during the pandemic, like, oh, like I think it came from a lab in China, they would have looked at you like you just like said that, JFK Jr.'s, doing the QAnon stuff, like the exact same craziness level. But now it's coming out like, there is.
Wait, Billy, wait. That was one of the weasel words. One of the weasel words
coming out.
It just came out that
came out.
They're saying that now.
Studies show.
It's now more accepted.
Right. Correct. I agree that like we don't know where it came from, but Billy's right.
That was censored. That was being censored off Twitter.
Billy's right that for a while you weren't allowed to say it.
But that's not it's okay, right? And that's what I'm saying. And so the issue is we live in this 24-hour news cycle to where you have to fill your time with something as a news outlet, right? And so let's say we have information that could be harmful, like say that the Wuhan shit. I have done no research. I have no idea about that, right? We should actually do an episode on that. But actually be an interesting episode. But it's a better example. The mask shit, right? The whole mask shit, and how like now conservatives are like, Dr. Fauci's a liar and yada yada yada. When you listen to his reasons as to why he said what he said when he said it, he was working with the best available information that he had at the time. And then that information changed. And so did his opinion, and so did his recommendations, right? And they view that as, oh, you're flip-flopping or you're lying, but it's not the case. Your opinion should go with whatever the results of the information that you see is, and it should not be opposite. The issue is if somebody says something, that's their word, that's their final word, especially researchers who are actually working on this, especially a frontline disease like something like the COVID, right? This just fucking came out. So the issue is we should be more apt to saying, I have no fucking clue. I don't know.
So wait, I want to go back to one thing you said when they were talking about. Oh shit,
I said Fauci. This nigga.
No.
This nigga came in his Tennessee draws.
It's before that. When Billy was talking about if you said back in March, April, May, June, whenever, that COVID came from the lab, the coronavirus lab where it started, whoever could have guessed that. That was being censored on Twitter. That was being taken off. People were being, if we want to use the word, deplatformed for saying that. Now that's a pretty accepted scientific theory at this point that a lot of people think that could have happened. So when you said, you said that's okay. What did you mean when you said that's okay? It's okay to censor people's saying that earlier and then just go back on it, or
yeah, it is.
Okay, see, that's
because
crazy.
there's a difference between like investigative journalism and like people spreading information. There's a very big difference. And so like if you have something that could be deemed as harmful, right? It could be, and this is why I brought up the mask.
Why is that harmful?
You know what?
I don't know. They had their reasons. If they gauge it, and this is the saying, I'm saying it's okay for them to gauge it. There's no. I'm not saying I agree with the fact that they have this power. It just is what it is.
We're just trusting in the church of Twitter at this point.
There's nothing.
No, I mean,
there's no life saving.
Fuck it.
You're kind of
There's
just
no
ignoring
Big T. There's no life-saving shit going on fucking Twitter, my G. I think that's the issue. Is like y'all think that
but
I'm being censored. Like nobody's fucking censoring you, dog. They're saying
they literally were.
This is okay to say. This is not okay to say. This is the platform that you agreed to come upon. Like, I just don't understand how is that a bad thing? How is that a bad thing that if somebody that has a platform with millions of people on it says this could be harmful at the time, according to us and according to what the experts are saying. So for now, let's suppress what we deem as misinformation until we get more information. So when we get more information, that's reasonable.
So I think we just got to the very crux of it, and this is the last I'll say on it. When you said why, if we've deemed this to be harmful, because I think it's getting to a point that what the people in charge deem to be harmful is very disputable at best. No. And it can
give me something, my G. Give me something that a platform has.
That's what we've been dancing around. We've been dancing around Big T's most problematic takes that he's been wanting to say.
No,
but he's afraid.
Just say. Just answer this, my G. Answer this. Give me something that has that a tech platform has censored that that goes against an expert, like a consensus of experts' opinion on something. Like,
not everything needs to be against a consensus of experts.
Bullshit. What are you talking bullshit?
Like we're talking in terms of politics. There are no like groups of experts. They're not facts. Like we're talking about political opinions.
Like what? I said like what? Like what?
I don't know.
I didn't come harmful about not wanting people to immediately just blame China and the Chinese when they were censoring those, when people were just firing off the hip, not knowing. One of the biggest movements of 2020 was Stop Asian Hate. Asians were getting beaten on the streets of America, especially San Francisco, which already has a huge Asian population and where a lot of these tech companies are located. That's why. Because there were no facts or basis at that point in time, which is what Arian was talking about with the mask and the no mask. It's about what we know and what we can prove at a point in time. You don't always have to jump the gun with shit. You don't have to jump the gun with like, oh, it was clearly Wuhan who did this as a biological weapon. Like, no one knows. Still, we don't know.
I think we just made a very big leap.
What are you talking about? How is that a leap?
I don't think those are as correlated as you think they are.
That's how it works. That's exactly how it works.
I think that's a bigger problem. Is you don't think that you think we live in a post-racist society. I think that's what you think.
No. Do not put things like that.
Then how is that a jump? Then how is that not a jump? You have the sitting president of the United States saying the China flu. That's fucking racist, my G.
That can be racist. That doesn't mean that we need to be. I just don't. I think the bigger problem is that 6 months later, that is an accepted opinion espoused by scientists. And 6 months ago,
you didn't hear anything we said. You didn't hear anything.
I did.
We're saying, jumping the gun and putting forth ideologies that we don't have evidence for is irresponsible. Even though you may have a hunch and it's correct, bro, it's still irresponsible because if it turns out not to be true, you can't take that back.
Let me give you an example. If in what was it, like the 1999 NFL draft, the Falcons select Michael Vick, and I'm like, that motherfucker's going to get arrested for dogfighting. That would be racist. That would be a bad take at the time. But because he happened to get arrested for dogfighting, and it actually happened years after the fact, and it came out, more facts came to light, when I had no idea. I was just playing a hunch. I was like, you know what? That guy feels like a dogfighter to me.
Let's go with an unknown. In the early 90s, Skip Bayless wrote a book about the Dallas Cowboys where he called Troy Aikman gay. That's wildly irresponsible when you don't know. You just don't like the guy the way he looks. I still don't know Troy Aikman's sexual preference. He's never come out and said anything about it, nor should he have to. But it's wildly irresponsible to just be like, oh, yeah, that guy loves guys, especially in the early 90s in a much different climate. Like, we learn more things. And when Arian was talking about the 24-hour news cycle, like, I've been listening to a lot more Norm Macdonald recently. And one of his bits was, we now have 24-hour news cycles. When I was a kid, it was 30 minutes. Turns out we only needed the 30 minutes. Correct. We do not need 24 hours of news. It forces us to reach for shit, make up shit. And like Big Boy said, retractions fall on deaf ears. It's easier to turn something that was false into true than, I'm saying this backwards, true into false than false into true. Like the retractions fall on deaf ears 10 out of 10 times.
I think
so that's why it's important to get it right first and not rush to it. We're rushing society for no reason. When all this shit broke last year, people weren't looking for solutions. They were looking for fingers to point and blame. That was the biggest problem. That caused a lot of people to die. That was an issue. And it's still an issue. It's always, I don't see how we fix it. I don't see how we revert back. We're always going to try and rush to be first. It's a problem with the internet and society in general. But that isn't something we need to keep doing, going forward.
I think
take a fucking breath, take some time.
Billy?
You know what was totally, and this is pretty unrelated, but just, something I noticed. Who was the first person that you saw in the Barstool office who was wearing a mask?
First person in the office wearing a mask.
The first, like before anything happened.
It's probably, I don't know, probably us because we were coming in.
No.
Stephen Shea.
No.
You'll never get it. You're way off.
This is the craziest thing about the whole thing that really confused me on
I don't know.
Granted, this person he was doing it as a joke.
No, he was Jack Mac.
No, he wasn't joking.
Yeah, no. The thing is,
I remember him wearing it. I didn't know.
Senator Tom Cotton, I think it was the first one to raise the alarm about how dangerous COVID was and sort of. And I'm just saying it's very interesting how everything flipped so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really, it's something that I still think about. All of a sudden you had a bunch of people who wanted to get authoritarian who were honestly conservatives. And then halfway through it just switched.
I think it definitely became
people wearing,
it became for a lot of liberal people, they saw it as a cudgel to get at Donald Trump, be like, look how badly he's fucking this up.
Yeah.
And then for a lot of conservatives, it was it's actually not a problem. Donald Trump's doing a great job and we have nothing to worry about because they wanted to support the president. And so it definitely became a divisive situation.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah, I've heard a bunch of smart people say divisive recently, but it might be when John Clayton says negotiating. Just something to make you sound way smarter. But it was a divisive issue, and it should never have become something that became partisan. But again, with the 24-hour news cycle, it does become partisan. So Big T, let me ask you this, because I think we can all agree that it's not good for people to be censored for saying things that are true and labeled as lies. Now, we can't always get that right, but if you're a company like Twitter, at what point does it become a free speech issue, even though you're a private company? At what point does the government get to take over these companies and say, here are the rules about what you can and cannot do? What's the size? Because that's a subjective conversation too. Is it 10 million users, 50, 100?
Well, I don't think there's a size. I think we're talking about things that aren't objectively true or untrue. So,
but if they're a private company,
you're censoring opinion. Yes,
they can kick you off for using the letter A.
Yes,
if they wanted
can.
To.
I don't think that's what they should be doing, but they absolutely can.
Yeah. So
and then at that point, but I think Twitter and Facebook, the internet in general, is to a point now that it's a reasonable argument that is so critical to your voice that it should fall under some sort of protection of free speech. Now, they're still private companies. Like you said, they can do whatever they want.
When you say critical to your voice, can you expound on that a little bit?
That's where the question of at what point does it become critical to the voice?
I think the internet is to a point that it is essential to thought. We do this show, it's sent out on the internet. That's how people hear what we think. You go on the internet, you have hundreds of thousands of followers. Arian, I'm speaking to you particularly. That is how people understand you and what your thoughts are. I think it's to a point that is so essential, like I've said, to your voice, that it should fall under some sort of protection.
But that's acting under the assumption that everyone's using the internet earnestly. We do not know PFT's thoughts through his hundreds of thousands of follower account.
That's fair.
how does that dissolve you of any responsibility that your speech may have that can affect the behavior of other human beings?
I don't think I want to be careful how I phrase this.
Be careful, dog.
Be careful. We literally just went on a rant about not rushing things.
I don't. If you are saying something that is not directly inciting someone to violence, which I think is a very narrow subset of speech, like at what point do you hold people accountable for what other people do?
I guess my counter would be, I don't think enough. Like, I think the internet's dangerous in the sense that society as a whole isn't very bright. And there is a responsibility to help the slower ones among us.
I guess my argument can be just boiled down to this one last point. Coley, when you said retractions fall on deaf ears, that's actually, I think, the point I'm trying to make, where when we allow companies like Twitter to say, you know what, you can't say this right now. That's just what it is. If it comes out that it's true later, who cares? We just don't think you should be able to say that. And it turns out that you should have been able to. I don't like that line in the sand being drawn and keep being redrawn. And then we end up at a point where it's very, very scary.
Okay.
But
So
you're conflating my two thoughts, because I am saying, like, if it's proven, I have no problem with things going out, but they just have to, like, if you can say anything, but if you have no proof, like, what people will run with shit, like PFT was just saying, a lot of liberals were running with the, oh, look at all these ivermectin fucking idiots.
Yeah, and I think we're talking about, medical, like, facts here. That's different than, I'm talking about opinions. And I think that's happening with a lot of opinions.
But there are different types of, like, me saying Tom Brady's better than Aaron Rodgers is an opinion. Me saying the Chinese are to blame for the global pandemic is an opinion that some people are going to take very personally and probably try and do something about it to the next Chinese person they see.
But that's also the reason why we have discriminatory laws in law, right? So it says, like, hate crimes and stuff like that, because there's certain instances that can incite violence that are protect that are there to protect minority groups. And so there's a reason why we have those. It's not because we're liberal cucks, right? It's because we understand the history of this country and what that leads to. Like, and that's just our past. It's over and over again. It shows that.
Yeah, but you're describing a category of speech that's already illegal. Like,
that's why it's not allowed on.
But no. That's already a crime. Like, we don't need Twitter to say you can't do this. The government already says you can't do that.
We're saying inciting, and that's the fine line we're all talking about here, is the inciting of it. And what you're saying, what people who have your worldview and share it are saying is free speech is free speech, and the incitement of it, you guys are exaggerating it. And what somebody like me would say is, we've seen this play out time and time again, so it's better to err on the side of caution rather than have you possibly incite something that could harm somebody. Like, I don't even see how this. If you could possibly save somebody from harm, would you?
Yes, I know where you're coming from with it, and I understand. I think that is shrinking the Overton window, and if it was just confined to what you're talking about, I think that's a much different conversation than what is actually happening and what I think could happen in the future.
But that's what I was asking about, like, giving me examples. I think you're talking about, like, political takes, like, say, like the transgender issue, right? Like, or the bathroom transgender issue or something like that. Is that what you're, like, alluding to?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of political opinions that won't be allowed to be expressed.
Right. Again, those are protecting minority groups. Like, there's no political opinion, like, about what streets should be put up in X city X, right? That's a political opinion as well, but there's no harm there. That's the issue. The harm comes in minority groups who aren't usually protected. That's where y'all would say it's bullshit. And I'm not, like, I think it gets characterized as like people who like me who bang for this side. Like I just read Twitter all day. I'm offended. I don't give a fuck what you say, fam. I honestly don't. But my thing is just like, if we have a I was arguing with this conservative on Twitch a while back. He's a horrible rapper, by the way. But I was arguing with this conservative on Twitch, and he was saying that masks have 0% effectability, right? And I was like, you're saying they have 0, right? And I was like citing studies, and he was like, I could show you studies. And I was like, okay, cool. I was like, if it's a possibility that wearing a mask can affect the spread of it at all, very little, you're saying you're not willing to do it. And he was like, no. And I was like, well, that's just where we differ. If masks are, my shit sweats, I get it. But if it's a possibility that curbing this speech, wearing this mask, having these regulations cannot harm somebody, I'm doing it 10 times out of 10 because it doesn't affect my life like that. You not being able to fire up them fire-ass tweets, it's not really affecting your life like that.
See, and like I said, I understand where you're coming from, and I think if it was confined to the specific instances you're talking about, I would be okay with it, but I don't think it is, and I don't think it will be.
Okay, that was the Tennessee Minute. Good talk. I think we got everything in that you need to know about volunteer football. Tune in next week for another
I think that was a good discussion.
That was actually really
It was good. It was good. I mean, sometimes people say like, "Oh, no one can have these debates and conversations. People are afraid to talk." I think by and large, people are reasonable as a whole. I think more so than they get credit for. I know you're going to do the Men in Black quote, Arian.
Yeah,
but
it's great. It's great. I got a couple Avatar quotes in there in the same breath. Well, I think, hold on, real quick. I think this is the biggest issue. You got to learn when to walk away too, right? Like you're not gonna win. Like the way you exit that conversation was beautiful, I believe, right? Because I was arguing with some dude on Twitter in my DMs, and he thinks that the world is 6,000 years old. That's the last thing he said to me. I just said, okay. And it's like, you just have to know when to like, there's nothing to gain here. I think what I like about Big T, even though like we are in total opposite ends of the spectrum, is like, at least it's not like, it doesn't turn to like a motherfucker. Like it doesn't turn to like a dumbass. Like it's just like, we have our opinions. I laugh, he laughs. We probably don't think each other worldviews are accurate, but we go on about the day. And I think that's what's going to have to happen because
I like Arian a lot, and I like having those conversations.
This is good. We're making progress, guys.
I like Coley a lot too.
Thank you, Big T.
What about Billy? What about Billy?
I love Big T.
I like Billy sometimes.
I like.
I appreciate the honesty, Big T.
Yeah, so you know I meant it when I said I like you a lot.
Before we get to our main topic of the night, Billy's favorite topic in the world, one he's been pressing us on for a while, we're about to have official macrodosing athlete Tyler Barron on the program. That's right. He is the award-winning linebacker. Is he defensive end or linebacker? Big
Defensive
T?
end.
Defensive end from the University of Tennessee. We're going to talk to him about what it means to be a macrodosing athlete, work out the financials, and get some deliverables from him. But before we get to that, I want to give a shout-out to a great advertiser, Bird Dogs. I'm wearing Bird Dogs right now. If you're watching on YouTube, wearing the Bird Dogs right now. These are swimsuits. I think there's a pair of swim shorts. But I also have probably a dozen of their regular shorts that have the built-in liner. It's the best thing that I own. And we were just talking before the show about Bird Dogs and how great they are. And some of the guys here don't have their Bird Dogs just yet. I'm telling them it's going to change their life when they get it. It solves a lot of problems. It's got built-in underwear. They make shorts, they make pants, they make joggers that have that built-in silky soft underwear. It's the most comfortable thing I've ever worn. It's not even close. They stole Lululemon's designer, and now they're just doing it way, way better. The shorts are elite. The pants blow the Lulu and the Lulu ABC and commission pants out of the fucking water. They're the only pants that you should own. The joggers just came out and they're selling fast. I can't wait to get my hands on some Bird Dogs joggers. Bird Dogs, if you're listening to me right now, I'm the biggest believer in the world in your product. I exclusively wear Bird Dogs shorts during the summer. I take them to the gym. I bring a backup pair with me, so I work out in my Bird Dogs, and then I take a shower and I switch into another pair of Bird Dogs. I don't have to worry about lugging around underwear to the gym. I don't have to worry about folding up underwear, putting it in my gym bag. It saves a lot on laundry, saves a lot of time, saves a lot of just discomfort because they're so damn comfortable. We love Bird Dogs. Go to birddogs.com, use promo code MACRO. They're going to give you a free Bird Dogs whistle football. That's right. It's like the old Vortex football. I brought one with me to the beach this summer. Hank threw it 77 yards. This thing flies, it whistles. It's the best toy of all time. You're going to want to get the football, but that comes free when you get a pair of shorts when you go to birddogs.com, enter promo code MACRO. Birddogs.com, promo code MACRO. And now, here is Tyler Barron. All right, we now welcome on the macrodosing athlete. We got Tyler Barron from the University of Tennessee, We are a big volunteer football podcast. We've got Big T in the room with me right now. And, of course, we've got Tennessee legend Arian Foster. And he really came up with the idea to try to find somebody on the Volunteers this year to work with a name, image, likeness thing. So, Arian, here he is. This is your guy that you hand-selected to reach out to, Tyler Barron.
Actually, it was Big T, man. Because I said find me somebody who's black first, and then somebody who's like a rebel, kind of go against the flow. And I don't know, I don't really follow college football like that, but so it's Big T, man.
I don't remember how Tyler's name came about, but y'all were like somebody who's pretty good, or he reached out to us, right? Madeline came and he was like Tyler Barron, and I was like, yeah, he's good.
And we started following you, and then you put up a couple sacks, or like a sack and a half in the first game where you popped up on our radar. So you did a good job of making sure that we knew that you were there. So welcome.
And then the price went up. And the price went up.
So how's it going, man? Like this whole name, image, likeness thing, that's kind of crazy, right? Like people reaching out, just being like, hey, you can get paid now. Good for you. I'm glad you're taking advantage of it. But when you first heard about this show, how did you first hear about us?
So it was kind of weird. I actually heard about you guys through Twitter. A bunch of people were just DMing me, and they were like, you should like DM them, like see what they're talking about. So that's truly how I heard about y'all, to be real.
All right, so let's I'm going to coach you just gently on that, if that's okay. You were a big fan of the podcast, and you were a day one listener. And then when you heard us talk about this, you're like, "Yeah, I'm a Macrodosian. I'm all in. I want to be the first guy ever sponsored by this show." So that's very cool to hear. Billy, you had a question, right?
Quick question, Tyler. If you had to bring anyone back from the dead and ask them a question, who would it be, and what would the question be?
Shoot. If I'm bringing anybody from the dead, shoot, I'm gonna bring Tupac back and ask him who he saw, who killed him.
I said the same thing about JFK, but turns out they probably have no idea who killed them because they just got shot.
Tupac.
Think you know?
We know who killed Tupac, man.
We know. I just want to confirm it.
Yeah, it was Orlando. I forget his last name. Orlando something. He was in some Crip game in L.A. And Pac. I'm gonna probably get heat for this, but Pac was doing too much at that Vegas hotel. Like, not only that,
word
got his So he punched Buddy. And he never let it go, and so they doubled back and they got him. But yeah, it's his fault. I blame Tupac's people around him. Like, you don't let one of the best rappers in the world go around but punching people in Las Vegas hotel lobbies, fam. Like, come on, it's wild.
Right.
So Tyler, Billy kind of sprung that question on you. That's one that's tough if you don't have time to think about, but you answered it really well, I think. We need to talk some business, because we want to have a successful business partnership with you at the University of Tennessee. And I don't know if you've listened to any of the clips from our show when we've been going back and forth on how we're negotiating with you. You are a shrewd businessman. You are not afraid to ask for money, which we like. We like that a lot, but we got to figure out what makes sense, because we want this to work for us as well as for you. So I understand that the price of the bag goes up when you have a good game. So you tell us what would work well for you. We're talking Instagram posts, we're talking stories. How is that going to work out?
To be honest, really, I was just looking for you guys to tell me what y'all would want out of it, and then I would base myself off of what y'all were asking me to do.
I like it. So we make you an offer, and then you come back and you say, actually, it's 50% more than that, and then we say, okay, and then we've got ourselves a deal. Am I understanding that correctly?
Wait, did you just already agree to 50% more than what we were going to?
Yeah, because if I say it, then I know that he's not going to ask me for 75% more. I actually just took you to the cleaners for 25% right there. by increasing my offer so much. I think I think I won that. So we've got some merch that we can send you. We would love to have you post it on social. And what's the price that we had talked about here? And we say we can send you if we can get an Instagram post wearing our merchandise, an Instagram story wearing our merchandise, and then for you to come back on the show next time you have a sack.
For sure. So I guess we'll be back on the show on Monday after the game.
Perfect.
There it is.
There you go.
Now,
Yeah,
I'm just spitballing here, and I don't know if this is going to cost us extra. Could we come up with some sort of sack celebration that only we know?
Do you have a celebration? You do? Is there anything that you do?
I don't got something I do every time, but I try to think of something random to do every time, to be real.
So we need some sort of signal that so when we see next week Connor Bazelak on his ass, we know that was to macrodosing.
What about this, Arian? I don't want to step on your toes, so maybe you can give some feedback on this. But when you would score a touchdown, you would do the bow, right? The hands together in the bow.
It's true.
What do you think about passing that along, keeping that alive?
That would be fire. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm
that'd be fire for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
I like that.
Flash
I
an
like that.
M.
Yeah, flash
the M.
Yeah, you can flash an in.
Now that'd be disrespect my boys from Memphis. That'd be real disrespect.
And it's corny, Billy. And it's corny, man.
Good point.
I like the bow. I like the bow, man.
Yeah.
All right.
But honestly, man, all jokes aside, man, I just want to say this, man. I'm all for young brothers getting paid, man, and I'm all for we was joking on the pod about how the price went up and he's trying to tax. I like that shit, right? I like that shit because I'm a firm believer. I'm a firm advocate. I'm an anti-NCAA. I think they crooks. I think they villains. I think they thieves. And so it's fuck them at all costs. And so the fact that they had to give a little bit, this is just dope. Like to have somebody that we could actually do it, actively, man. So I'm always rooting for young brothers, especially. I went to the university, so I'm always rooting for you, man. I want to see you do. I want to see you do good. I want to see you do good. And the biggest thing that I would say, man, because I don't really talk to young athletes no more. I'm kind of out the loop. But if all of this money is starting to swirl, you start doing really good, agents start coming, all of that stuff. One, you can hit my line anytime, by the way. We'll rap about that later. But figure out and find out people who are in your best interest that'll teach you about money. Like don't just become a cog in the wheel, and when it comes, but there's an active bunch of people that are trying to snake from y'all. And it's and the garden is thick, dog. So it's like I always tell young dudes, try to learn about money as much as you can. Soak up any kind of game. Like I said, you can hit my line anytime. I'll give you my number. Just hit the DM, and we can rap about anything you want to, because I just want to see young dudes win, man.
Appreciate that, for real. That's love.
All right. I think we have ourselves a deal. We can hit your Venmo, whatever's convenient for you. We'll send you a care package, and we'll get you back on the show. Do you want to come back on Monday?
Yeah, for sure. Sounds good.
All right. Yeah. What we can do is do a recap of how the game went. So, Big T, do you have any questions about how the game went this weekend?
That's okay. We don't need to talk about this week. We're on to Missouri. This is going to be a big win. I do have Tyler. I don't know if you can see me on the thing. I'm Big T. I graduated from UT a couple years ago. I have a question just for me. Nobody else that listens to this show is going to understand it, but I just want to know, what's your order at Gus's?
I know Gus's.
That's true. Arian would know.
I know Gus's.
If I'm going to Gus's, I'm going to get probably a little 4-piece with the fries and the mac and cheese.
Love that. I just want.
Hey, we had a D tackle when I was there, dog. I'm not gonna name his name, but he would eat at Gus's every fucking day, dog. So much so that our D line coach went to Gus's and said, "Do not let him order from y'all anymore." That nigga was
right now.
That nigga was big as hell, dog.
You can just say Albert Hainsworth. We know it was.
Nah, it wasn't him. I didn't play with him. I wasn't him.
All right. Well, we appreciate you coming on the show. Can you just say, we'll clip this part. Just say Macrodosing is my favorite podcast, and I've listened to every single episode. I'm Tyler Barron. Macrodosing is my favorite podcast. I've listened to every episode.
For sure. I'm Tyler Barron. Macrodosing is my favorite podcast, and I listen to every episode.
Perfect. All right. I love it. Well, we're proud to sponsor you. Good luck with everything. Like Arian said, like we're happy to see athletes cashing in on the name, image, likeness. It's money that should have been going their way for a long, long time. So we're happy to help out in our small part. All right. Well, we're going to get to the actual topic of today's show in a second.
What minute of today's show do you think Kyrie shut it off?
No. Dude, I think Kyrie, if he listened to this show, I think he would love this program. Can we try to get this program into Kyrie Irving's ears?
Who do you think's like the sneakiest like person who enjoys listening to this, but is just would never admit it because like they couldn't?
Huh.
Like, you think Kyrie would admit to listening to Macrodosing if he could?
No. We're too like shallow on the internet waters. Like he's so much deeper into the internet than where we exist. It's not like we wouldn't even cross his path.
It'd be awesome though if Kyrie, he was asked today if he was vaccinated. He said that's a personal question. It'd be awesome if he was vaccinated, but he truly believed that it was a personal question and would not dignify it with a response. Like that would be that would actually be the ultimate Kyrie Irving thing to do if he's gone that far.
I think
into like
that's Washington State's football coach. Like you have to be vaccinated as a government employee in Washington. So like I think he wouldn't be allowed to be coaching if he wasn't, but he keeps just saying, yeah, like I'm not going to answer that.
It's a personal question. Kyrie Irving, he's vaccinated. Stop asking.
Kyrie didn't even get asked if he was vaccinated. They asked him if he was going to be able to play home games, and he said that's a personal question. No, it's not. It's not a personal question.
That's almost as bad of a question. If it was posed to any other player, that's as bad of a question as David Letterman intentionally asked to Kevin Durant today, which was, why do they call you KD? He asked that as a joke, but to any other player besides Kyrie Irving, like, are you going to play home games this year? You'd just be like, excuse me? What? Do you know something I don't?
I planned on it. Yeah.
They should make like an organic vax that has like sage in it and shit. That shit would be fire.
Yeah, Kyrie's like, you can't impose your medical choices on everybody. Meanwhile, he's going around and like hotboxing all of Madison Square Garden with burning sage.
Did he ever explain why he saged the court?
It's a Native American thing. So he has Native American ancestry. I don't know exactly like what his background is, but it's partially Native American, and it's one of their I'm gonna absolutely fuck up what it's called. Not a ritual, but it's one of their almost like a sacrament for whatever was it, tribe or group of people that his ancestors come from. So that's what he was saying about the sage thing. It like cleanses the environment.
Oh, as I was going to say, what does it do? Because I've never been in the sage camp. I know my this is a cool story. There was a murder suicide in my house. Not while I lived in it, but like
cool, yeah.
Before I bought it, right? Super dope. So I mean, it's not super dope. It's really sad.
Deal? Did you get a good deal on the house?
No, they don't take it off because it's in a good neighborhood. So it's like, I don't know, niggas die every day. I don't give a fuck.
Doesn't sound like a good neighborhood based on your.
Well, it's a good neighborhood on the surface, right? And so one of my relatives who will be not named, they were like, I'm gonna come over, but I'm gonna sage your house. And I was like, why are you gonna sage my house? And she was like, because there was a murder suicide in it. I was like, my nigga, what the fuck is burning sage gonna do? Does that scare the ghost? And they're not fucking like, what is? I don't understand the shit. I just don't get it. So like when niggas be saging shit, in my head I'm always laughing because they're like trying to get rid of ghosts. I don't know.
Yeah, I would personally. I don't know if I could move into a house that had a murder suicide in it. A murder, that's one maybe.
Yeah, murder. I could move into a murder.
I could
murder suicide,
yeah.
That's too dark.
I think I could even move into like a double murder house.
Yeah, but as long as I could rationalize the crime. Like,
what's the cap? How many people need to die in the house before I can't buy this one?
I think two is okay, as long as they're adults. 2 adults in a house, I think I would still purchase it. But it can't. One of them can't be a suicide. It has to be both murders.
What is the suicide that is? Oh, go ahead, Coley. Go ahead.
I was going to say, with just the murders, there's high potential that the murderer who knows that address very well is still out there. Murder, suicide, that guy's at least taken care of.
We're not going to have this problem here, especially in that room.
Right.
Yeah.
No, if I can like rationalize, like if it's actually really weird. Like if there's like a shooting and it's like a crime, it's like related to like gang violence or crime, I'm like, okay, I'm like much more comfortable. But if there's just like a random shooting, which is like based on something like crazed person that I can't really understand why they do it, that freaks me out way more.
Yeah, I would also say I don't think I would stay in a hotel room that had a single murder in it. There's like a sliding scale. I don't like murder hotels.
I feel like if there was like a drug deal gone bad type murder, like that one, I'd be like, okay, like I would.
That's part of the game.
It's like not spooky.
People don't talk enough about all the drug deals gone good that happen, and way more frequent.
The perfect handshakes.
Yeah, perfect app, clean product exchange, reasonable price. You know,
supply and demand. This is America.
Exactly. It's just a good capitalistic transaction. But we need to put focus on the positives instead of the negatives all the time. That's one of the big problems we have.
That'd be a good shirt. Let's talk about the drug deals gone good.
Yeah, way more of those. So some quick news. We are going to do nano dosing on Thursday. I spoke with Owen, the producer of Son of a Boy Dad, last week. They put up the white flag. They're no longer releasing mini episodes on Thursday. So we won the war against them.
Yeah.
For the mini episodes. Yeah. But shout out to Son of a Boy Dad. They're a very funny podcast. We joked around a little bit with them, but Ronan, Sass, and Owen and all those guys are very funny. So their show also comes out on Tuesdays. Listen to that as well as Macrodosing. No bad blood now that they've agreed to let us just dominate them on Thursdays.
They're saying Lil Sass might be too focused on his stand-up career.
It's a distraction.
Yeah, that's what the streets are saying.
Yeah, distraction. I like that.
I've got my eye on that Roan. This feels like if I know that guy like I think I do, this feels like a first step in a trap.
Like Art of War type shit. Let your enemy believe that they're winning.
Yeah, very Sun Tzu of him.
Good point.
I think it's a setup.
We should do an episode on the Art of War. Can we do a book club?
Yeah.
Ooh, book review. Yeah.
Macrodosing book club on the Art of War, because I don't know.
The Wikipedia page does a pretty good job.
Okay, we should do a Wikipedia
because they do the chapters and like a paragraph each. And
just read the book, nigga.
Let's
read the book.
Let's read the book.
It's not that long.
The Wikipedia Club is a part of my take thing.
Not that long.
We'll save the Wikipedia Club for PMT on things, but I feel like we should try to read Art of War, because it's crazy how it was written so long ago, and a bunch of people still quote it to this very day. And it's a mixture of things, because I think there's probably a lot of really good stuff that you can take from it, but also it's one of dumber people's favorite books to quote to sound intellectual.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of like everything good about this podcast. Bunch of dumb people saying things that they think sound smart, and also occasional little pearls of wisdom in there.
Yeah, my favorite one is sweat in peacetime to bleed less in war. Maybe is not even from the book.
Yeah, no, that was just on your weight room in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, your football coach. Football coaches love to put up fake Sun Tzu quotes.
I love like all of the distilled philosophical philosophy about conflict that's just been distilled through strength coaches, head coaches, and then trickled down to me to create my worldview.
Well, they whittle away all the bullshit and they just give you the stuff that you need to know.
Yeah, that's not from the Art of War. That's from a guy named Norman Schwarzkopf at a Naval Academy commencement in 1991.
A guy named Norman Schwarzkopf, Stormin' Norman. He was the last person in the United States to win on the road in Iraq.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I 100% know that. When I said it, I was like, this sounds like it could be from Art of War. And like someone definitely could pass it off as that. But
you can take any quote and then put Sun Tzu at the end of it, and it could sound right. Like, success isn't owned, it's leased, and rent is due every day.
I think this one,
Sun Tzu, The Art of War.
I think this one's actually from Art of War, but better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in war.
Okay.
I think that actually might be Sun Tzu.
Let's look that up.
That's so applicable to like anything though. Like,
I give that 35% chance of being from Art of War.
It's just a Chinese proverb.
Okay.
So pretty close.
Better to be a cook in the kitchen, and that's just
it's better.
It's weak. It's pretty weak.
It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a garden.
We get it.
No, yeah,
in a war.
But wait, why would you?
I definitely understand the quote. I'm just saying it's pretty weak.
The fuck would a warrior do in a garden? He'd just be like, "There's too many vegetables."
Also,
Like,
I resent
need
that
some
those
protein.
are framed as being mutually exclusive. Why can't a warrior enjoy gardening?
Good point. Warrior poets. That's a thing.
Or a gardener enjoy warring.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, nigga, come up on your cash crops like.
Right. It depends on what you're growing. There are a lot of people in Humboldt County that fit right in the middle of that Venn diagram.
Facts.
And yeah,
Matter of fact, I was thinking that might be a dope little thing. We should pick a book and like just like we do the Tennessee Minute, we'll do like chapter 1 overview of the book and just have like a. I should might be kind of fun, man.
Yeah. Okay. Let's. Here's what we'll do. We'll make our way through The Art of War. It'll be a recurring segment on the show. We'll do a chapter. Is it broken down into chapters? How is the book structured?
I know the last chapter's on spies.
Is that true?
Yeah.
But he just didn't even answer the question. Just gave a random ass fact.
Is that true? We'll read.
There are 13 chapters.
Okay, perfect. We'll do it. We'll break it down into 13 episodes. We could even make that the nano dosing.
Ooh, I like that.
It's like Art of War breakdown week after week. What do you think about that? And we'll do voicemails on this show. I like that. I like that idea too because voicemails is something that like isn't specific to our show. I feel like it fits more into the course of the conversation in a regular episode. So we'll do the Art of War book club on Thursdays. We'll do we'll start it. This will be the last week that we'll have voicemails in the nano dosing, and then starting next week we'll have the Art of War breakdowns.
Okay.
Does that work?
I think
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think our book club.
Billy, read the shit, Billy. Read the book, man.
He'll read.
I'll read.
Billy will read.
Chapter 1 has 3 parts.
Okay. It's already sounding like he's gonna not read the whole thing.
I think it tapped out already.
Yeah.
Our book club should be, because I'm pretty sure this falls into this umbrella, and I apologize, this may be a pardon my take joke, but our book club should just be all the books LeBron's read the first page of.
Oh my God.
Do the first page. We'll just review the first pages of those.
Bro, that Malcolm X autobiography shit was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Cause like LeBron, my dude, man, and like that's like mandatory reading for school. I thought like I think everybody has already read that shit, and it's like they kept asking him questions about that shit. It's like my nigga, just read the book, though.
That's my
Like,
question.
that nigga said, smart brother, very smart. He showed us. He said he showed us how powerful the Negro could be.
Oh my
Like the cut of this guy's gym, said LeBron.
He said Negro, bro. I fucking fell out, man.
Okay, I'm currently, and Arian, you said that you have the Art of War, right?
I do.
All right, I'm gonna order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 copies for the office.
Big baller.
That's right.
PFT.
Yeah, I'll expense that shit. Paperback though.
Don't want to get too crazy.
Yeah, I'm not made out of money, guys. All right, so
Big T, you down for this book club shit?
Yeah, I can do a chapter a week.
That's what I'm talking about. Just while you eating Chick-fil-A, just go ahead and knock it out.
Facts.
All right, love it. And yeah, let's pivot real quick. We'll pivot elegantly to the topic that we wanted to discuss on this week's episode. This is a Billy special. This week, if you tune into Macrodosing, you're like, you know what? I don't get enough of Billy. I don't get enough of Billy's special interests on this show. You're in luck because he's been very passionate about this. He keeps spamming the group chat with it when we're trying to think of subjects for next week's episode. He's been really pushing this one on us for the last couple months, so we decided to let Billy cook. Billy, do you want to introduce the topic?
Well, it's an extremely current topic, but this one is about national parks and disappearances. So it's been going quite viral, especially with
Quite viral.
Gabby Petito going missing and now found, and her boyfriend now on the run and missing. But there's been tons of TikToks and different forms of media regarding that there might be more in the national parks than we seem to know. And a lot of it stems from, how many people disappear in national parks every year. And there's a bunch of books called Missing 411, which is written by a Bigfoot truther.
411.
Yeah.
Missing 411. You know what 411 is?
What?
That's crazy. This is one of the generational divides that I think we're going to uncover on this show.
Yep.
Mad Dog, do you know what 411
Don't
is?
Google it. Don't Google it.
No Googling.
I'm not Googling it. Isn't it like you would call, oh fuck, I'm gonna sound dumb. Isn't it you would call it and it was like Google before the internet?
Yeah, that is.
I'll give you a pass. I'll give you a pass on that one. I'll give you a
Yes.
pass on that one.
I feel so old hearing her refer to it that way.
Is it like 311?
Avery?
It's like an information line, right? Like you would call like if you needed directions or whatnot.
Yeah, 411 is information. Call for information. So you could call to get somebody's phone number, right? That was one of the things you could do.
That was probably the main reason why people used it.
So I wasn't too far off.
No, you were pretty close.
I'll give you a pass on that. It was actually pretty.
Big T, did you know that?
If you would have asked me first, I wouldn't have. But now that you say that, I remember that.
Okay, that's crazy that you guys.
Well, I thought that was 311.
311 is different, I think. Let's see.
That's like if you need,
311 is
like,
non-emergency police.
No, 411 is yeah, it's information. Y'all know you young bucks. Y'all know star 69. That's probably a little more known.
Oh, dude, we star 69 all the time.
All the time. That was
Yeah.
my favorite prank.
Yeah.
No, I have a story about star 69. We used to take the bus to practice or to school, and what we used to do is when we drove past stores while we were stuck in traffic, we'd call the stores using star 69 and tell the poor people, whoever picked up the phone, to come outside because we were outside and we needed to come outside. Then we just mess with them and tell them to like go up to random people who are outside of the store. So we'd be just in the bus like messing with some poor person who was out on the street just like looking for them, like, hey, we're right behind you. It's like, it was a lot funnier back in the day, but
That story was a lot funnier in your head.
You guys got fucking crazy.
I
with
just
it.
had a
you guys are nuts, man.
And then
you get mad.
You could do star 67. So star 67, that was, I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, star 67.
So
not
star
69.
69 was the number that you could star 69 was what you would look to see who just called you. You would get their phone number, because if you're calling on a landline, my phone rings. It's not a cell phone. I don't see who's calling me. So if I pick up the phone, somebody makes like a weird noise and hangs up, I hit star 69, I can figure out exactly who it was that just called. But if you hit star 67 before you called that person, it would block their ability to star 69 you.
Huh.
Oh yeah, I only knew star 67. That one that Billy was talking about.
Yeah.
All right, so Billy, Bigfoot, a Bigfoot hunter wrote about it. So right off the bat, you know that it's
it's
probably
kind of,
truthful.
There's like basically this whole theory called the Can-Am Missing Persons Project, and there's a bunch of people who go missing in the woods every year. And even though there's tons of resources and people deployed to look for them, they just can't find them. And when they do find evidence, it's always weird. There's always a bunch of different factors that just confuse investigators and end up, adding a pretty mysterious element to all these disappearances. And I want to talk about the first one, which that brought a lot of attention to some of these disappearances, and it's the disappearance of Dennis Martin. So, and this is actually for the Tennessee Minute. This is hits close to home. So let me read you this story. Dennis Martin was a 6-year-old resident of Knoxville. He was visiting the Great Smoky Mountains National Park along with his father, grandfather, and older brother on Father's Day weekend in 1969. The camping trip was a family tradition for the Martins. The family hiked from Cades Cove to Russell Field and camped overnight. The next day, they hiked to Spence Field near the Appalachian Trail, where they planned to spend the night. Martin disappeared on June 14th at 16:30 while planning on surprising the adults with his brother and other children from a separate family the Martins were camping with. He was last seen by his father going behind a bush to hide, intending on surprising the adults with the other children. After not seeing him for about 5 minutes, and when all the other children had returned to the campsite, his father became concerned and began searching for him. His father ran down the trail for nearly 2 miles until he was sure he could not have gone any farther. After several hours, they sought help from the National Park Service Rangers. Search efforts included a separate search by National Guard and Special Forces found no trace. Heavy rains during the first day's search hampered the efforts, and heavy mist the next day. Up to 1,400 people were involved in the search effort, potentially obscuring possible clues. Footprints were found in the area, but dismissed as being Martin's and determined by park officials to have been left by a Boy Scout participating in the search. The child-sized footprints led to a stream where they disappeared. The tracks indicated that one foot was barefoot, while the other one was in an Oxford, the type of shoe Martin was wearing, or tennis shoe. Retired park ranger and author Dwight MacArthur believes that the prints likely belonged to Martin, as the tracks were not part of a group and none of the Boy Scouts were searching while barefoot. A shoe and sock were also found. By June 22nd, 56 square miles of ground had been covered. More than 1,000 searchers continued to look until June 26th, when the search was cut back. The search was abandoned on June 29th after a last search. The search was officially closed down on September 14th, 1969. As of 2021, it is still the largest search in the history of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. So this is one instance of several similar stories of people who just almost vanish out of thin air in national parks across America. Now, there's occurrences such as them finding their clothes folded up in random places, finding their shoes in places where they thought they searched before, but they showed up later after the search party had covered the area, and then they go back and find all this stuff. And just a lot of, weird occurrences that are happening in these national parks. A lot of them involve kids, and a lot of them are closely, they all occur in the same areas. So if you look at a map of the United States, and I sent it to you guys in the group chat, there's all of the occurrences seem to occur around certain hotspots where people believe that something is causing all of these disappearances to occur. Now, a lot of these have been, so there's several examples of things that could explain this, such as hyperthermia causing people to take their clothes off. But there's such weird things, such as little kids being found, 20 miles from where they were last seen, and people just not remembering where they were when any of this happened. So a lot of people think that something suspicious is going on in these national parks, in places that, no one really knows how these people are disappearing, especially without a trace.
Okay, so you might be listening to Billy right now, and you might say, well, national parks and national forests are some of the biggest areas where, it's uninhabited, where people are very unlikely to find you if you go missing, because they're big, complicated forests and people do get lost there. But I'm gonna kind of side with Billy on this a little bit. There is precedent for some of these missing persons cases to be tied in with something a little bit more sinister. It's happened a lot in Australia. There have been documented cases of serial killers who live in and around these types of parks that drive in specifically looking for people to kill, tie them up, kill them, bury them in like mass graves. And these people have been tied to over like 30 or 40. Some killers have killed like 30 to 50 people and gotten away with it for their entire lives. And it's not just one person. There are many of them that have done this. And I don't think that problem is localized to Australia. I think that definitely some people see national parks as being the ultimate example of these people are off the grid. This is the perfect crime. I can get away with this. So there's a little bit of evidence that, at least in other places, it's not just about people going for a hike and getting totally lost.
So getting back to the story about Martin, they think there was 3 theories how Martin could have disappeared. The first is that he became lost and perished from overexposure to the outside world, such as hypothermia or some other heat stroke or another type of... it was during the summer, but it got cold at night and hot during the day. The second was that he was attacked by a hungry bear or a feral pig and carried off. The third was that he may have been abducted and taken out of the park by something or someone. His father was a huge proponent of the third theory. On the afternoon that Martin disappeared, tourist Harold Key and his family heard an enormous, sickening scream, and shortly thereafter witnessed an unkempt, rough-looking man running up the trail near where the scream had come from. Key looked on as the man had gotten into a white car and abruptly sped off. Park rangers and the Federal Bureau of Investigation concluded that there was insufficient evidence to link the sighting to Martin's disappearance, particularly given that Key's sightings was approximately 5 miles away from where Martin disappeared. the exact time of the sighting being unknown and the lack of trails connecting the two sites. So basically what we're getting at is that there's a huge group of people who think that all these disappearances have to do with feral humans. Now, the feral humans could actually, take up a lot of meanings of just people who are not living in civilization. But according to conspiracy theorists, they think that there is a civilization or group of feral humans being sort of like mole people, but, a whole group of people who live in various cave systems that seem to line up with all the hot spots that these disappearances in national parks occur.
All right, so for people that might not know, what do you mean by feral humans?
So the word feral has to do with domesticated farm animals that when released into the wild, like pigs or cattle or even cats, they tend to take on some of the characteristics of their wild ancestors. They revert back to, so for example, pigs who get released in the wild start to look like wild boars and grow tusks and start to show some of the characteristics that their like pre-domesticated species took on.
Okay, so when they get into nature, they kind of revert back to
not just mentally but also physically. So people are arguing that if there are feral people, that they've sort of reverted back to some sort of form of human that was, more prehistoric.
You think that if like I got lost in nature for, let's call it 2 years, 3 years, I'd be able to grow like a sick beard and I'd get like my body would get covered with hair?
That's what they're arguing. But
there's something about being in civilization that like that neuters you, or that like changes you to like your body, even not just mentally but physically, to become like a different type of human.
Based from what they argue, I am not an entirely proponent of there being a feral human race living somewhere.
Yeah, when you say mole people, I've heard about mole people. Are mole people an actual thing?
It's the idea of
in Vegas.
Well, that they are just homeless people who live underground. The idea of mole people is that them being like a very specific, like, own being,
and they can't. They lose their ability to see because they've been like in the dark for so long.
No,
am I a mole person because I've been wearing sunglasses?
Maybe
I might be slowly transitioning.
Yeah. I wonder if you think that's affected your vision at all?
Yeah, probably a little bit.
Like long term.
I hope not, but yeah, I don't think it hasn't been helpful. I don't think it's improved at all. Oh, by the way, Thursday, tune into the live stream. Think I'm going to take the shades off.
Or maybe it has helped a lot because it keeps a lot of the radiation out of your eyes and
blue light.
Good point.
It's possible. It's possible.
If you
UVA, UVB.
If you take them off, are you gonna like leave them off?
No.
So it's just like a one-time.
They'll just be off occasionally. If I'm walking around the office, I happen to be in the background of stuff. That's fine. And then when I do certain interviews, I'll take them off like with somebody who's new that might not know us. Because otherwise, sometimes people sit down and they're like, why is this guy wearing shades? I don't get it. I don't trust him necessarily. If they're not familiar.
Tell him, shut the fuck up. This is my thing.
Yeah. All right. Sorry to get us off track a little bit. So you're saying that are there actual reports of these feral humans, or is it just speculation? This might be a case where Billy's like, but wouldn't it be cool if there were?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, I was looking into this and I have my own theories. American Horror Story did a really good sort of example of what they're basically saying. A lot of people disappear in national parks every year. A lot of them are found. Some of them are not found because of, it's the national parks. It's supposed to be the most uncivilized place in America, where humans are not supposed to have much of any say. So they end up getting eaten by bears, cougars, bobcats, all sorts of stuff. And their, remains are not found.
That would suck to go out to a bobcat, like the tiniest.
Yeah. Well,
if I get killed, a little kid, good. But it's honestly like, little sus if a grown man is getting killed by a bobcat.
But basically, they're saying that there's a bunch of, cannibals living in the national forest, and they're just eating people. And a lot of this comes from like that original disappearance started Dennis Martin. Everyone thinks that there's a bunch of cannibals living in West Virginia amongst the Appalachian, trail and eating people. A lot of this is sort of stigmas against poor people who live in the region.
That's where the term hillbillies came from, I think. The Appalachians.
Yeah. So, but there's a ton of this stuff. It's gone super viral on TikTok, the 411 things. And honestly, a lot of it is just like people saying that they hear cannibals in the forest, but it's really just like coyotes and cougars mating, which is like a really crazy sound if you haven't heard that. Have you ever heard a cougar mating call?
I've heard cats in my neighborhood when they're like in heat, and it honestly sounds like they're dying. It's fucking weird. It's bizarre. So wait, what exactly is going viral on TikTok? What are they talking about?
Right now with the Gabby Petito stuff, there's a lot going on with it. But besides that, Billy and I looked up some TikToks of feral people on TikTok, and obviously it's not videos or anything of them, but it's people giving accounts of missing people from national parks that showed up 2 years later. There was one account where a man, I'm forgetting his name, but a man went missing in the national park. I believe it was Yellowstone, showed up 15 months later, 700 miles away from where he disappeared, and had no recollection of the past 15 months, and was like, I don't know where I've been. I don't know what I've been doing. Like, I don't know what's going on. He remembers coming in, and then he remembers coming out. Like, he doesn't remember anything in between, and he was gone for 15 months. And somehow he showed up. He walked basically to his dad's house and showed up at his dad's house, which is 40 miles from the national park, but 700 miles from his start of his journey. So people are like, did he have a mental health break? Like, did he, did something happen paranormally, something like that. So a lot of stuff like that. Also a lot of what Billy was saying with the map and what he sent in the group, where the map of missing people versus the map, or on top of the map of the national parks, is almost identical. So a lot of stuff like that. What else, Billy? Yeah,
so basically they also point to the fact that the national parks don't keep a record of how many people go missing inside of them, and how maybe the government is in on a conspiracy theory, and even Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah, it's a lot of Teddy Roosevelt slander.
Oh, let's go. Okay,
they keep saying that Teddy Roosevelt set up the national parks because he knew there was a bunch of feral humans living in the national parks, or like Bigfoot was living in the national parks, and so they could be left unbothered.
Want to protect them.
Yeah, to protect them, or just keep people out of there. And
I'm in on this one. I like this one.
And then they keep saying that sometimes when these kids go missing, special forces get deployed to the area, and they're actually there to go kill the feral humans who have kidnapped the children or whoever did, and they never find them because they get to their... So like the idea is that the feral humans are coming out of these cave systems and eating people, and that every time someone goes missing and they send special forces to look for them, the special forces are actually taking out their like hunting camp and destroying all the evidence and driving them back into their cave system.
Okay, so what do you think if Joe Biden, let's just say that we didn't have national parks right now, if Joe Biden issued a mandate that we're setting aside all this federal land as protected areas, do you think that people would be like, FEMA camps, these are the FEMA camps? I think
yes.
I think people probably would. Was this Teddy Roosevelt doing? So what you're saying is,
well, Twitter would put a stop to that real quick, but
they would. That's true, Big T.
My guy's had that in his holster the whole show.
But that's what it sounds like they're doing to Teddy Roosevelt. It's like, why would you just dictate that this land needs to be set aside and protected? How do you decide exactly where it needs to, what is the good land? What's the bad land?
Also, Billy, will you explain the whole correlation between Teddy Roosevelt and the national parks?
Well, he set aside all the land for the national parks. And which part are you talking about?
Like, why would he, why would he be the one that wants to protect?
Oh, because he was a huge Doorsman. He always believed that, some things should be protected. And a lot of America back then was basically national parks. You just wanted to protect it from loggers, miners, and whatnot. So, but as we talked about before in the cryptids episode, Teddy Roosevelt knew of the legend of Bigfoot and whatnot. And a lot of these legends and stuff predate European colonization of America. Some Native Americans used to talk about these feral people. And honestly, remember Coley said in the group that humans have been in America for much longer than we previously thought. And, if they were here for longer than we thought, maybe, people went underground in these cave systems. Just a thought. Not that I think this is actually a thing to...
If cannibals, like, just ate, like, resourcefully, I think they get kind of a bad rap.
Talk about it.
What I'm just saying, it's like, it's just meat, right? Like, as long as you're not out here murdering people for it, this is.
Well, how do they get it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like say they eat all old meat. Like when person passive natural causes, like it could be ethical cannibalism.
That's probably trash meat.
Old meat? Why would old meat? It's still, the muscles still work, right? Or like accidents, like say somebody, gets mauled by a grizzly and didn't eat the carcass.
Well, honestly, cannibalism has actually there's been quite a bit of cannibalism in America, in American history, especially on the pioneers, like the Donner Party.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's
like it's
either eat or die. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's taboo. It's definitely taboo. I'm not advocating cannibalism. I'm just like, we look at it. I'm not advocating it, though.
We're not advocating for it.
I'm saying,
from the first professional football player vegan to first.
You rather
you were saying, you were saying like you're not advocating for it, but you're also saying like,
hear both sides.
Listen, we need to have the conversation.
We need to have a conversation. I'm not saying we should eat people. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying like I'm talking about like the feral people, for instance, right? Like if they happen to come across a hiker that's lost and died, fell off, and that's what they do anyway, eat the body. Why not eat the body? Eat the body. Is it bad? Is it bad for you? I've done no research on cannibalism.
I don't know if it's bad for you. Like physically, I don't know if it's bad for you. Probably fuck you up mentally to eat a human, but
not if your tribe eats humans.
I would submit that maybe the entire tribe is fucked up mentally at that point.
I mean, if it was like
you
normalized for you, probably.
Yeah.
The only reason we think it's bad is because we've been told it's bad.
I think it. Yeah.
That's my point. I'm not saying let's eat people. I'm just saying, like, if you're out here surviving in the wild, like, say we was in that old, scenario. Like, say we, hiking and we get stranded, right? And like, there's nothing to eat, and everybody's like, and there's a day like somebody died from like cold, from being cold or something. I don't know, like, and you don't have no food. Like, you ain't gonna think about it. You ain't gonna think about eating them.
Yeah. What about this? Would you personally be okay with somebody eating you after you died?
Absolutely. My shit's I'm just going to rot. Absolutely.
Okay. So I think that in that circumstance, at least you're consistent.
Yeah. Yeah.
So some people donate their bodies to science after they die, and they're like, hey, cut me up, chop my liver apart, look at me underneath the microscope, learn how to solve problems in the future, learn how to save people's lives. What you're saying is, if you're starving and you need my meat to survive, that's really no different than saying donate my body to science and the greater good.
Nope. Yeah, we have a lot better options, but I'm just saying, like, if you stranded, I don't think it's as taboo as it should be. Like, we do a lot of weird shit. Like, that's, give cannibals a break.
The thing is, there are a lot of weird disappearances in the national parks. Like, sometimes they find children who they find their bodies at the end of the day, but they're found like a week later with food in their stomach that they didn't eat before they left. So like someone was cooking them food and keeping them alive,
fattening them up.
Yeah, all sorts of weird stuff. But
I haven't seen a good cauldron in a while. That was something that I was told, much like the whole quicksand thing in cartoons back in the day. is there would always be a cauldron laying around and somebody be ready to like put your body into it and then fill it up with water and add a couple carrots and turn you into a delicious stew. That's something that I've yet to encounter as an adult.
I've never seen a cauldron. I was joking, by the way. Don't eat people.
All right, that was a joke. That was one of the good bit.
Don't eat people. I was just playing. I like playing both sides of the fence just to philosophize, man. See what y'all thought about cannibals.
But the weird thing is that a lot of the families of those who disappear end up actually investing in this, Can-Am missing persons project because like they haven't found their loved ones, so it's sort of comforting them for them to think that they're stolen by a family of big feet.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a reason why you said the national parks don't keep a track of how many people are missing? Is there a reason why?
Wait, so I'm sorry. I want to get an answer to that question in a second, Arian. But Billy, back to what you just said a second ago. You said that they invest in Can-Am because it's more comforting to them to think that maybe their relative got stolen by a family of big feet.
Instead,
that's a better alternative than being like they got lost and they probably died due to exposure. You're like, well, you know what? Let's hold out some hope. They could be being held hostage by a giant hominid,
or they're just living amongst them.
It's a comforting thought knowing that they probably died in terror being swung against an oak tree by the guy from Jack Link's commercials.
Are we also sure that's the plural of Bigfoot?
No.
Big feet? Nope, no idea.
I think it'd be
Sasquatches.
It would be Big's feet, like
I think it's just Bigfoots,
like Big's Mac or Attorneys General.
Bigfoots makes actually more sense. I'm in the Bigfoots camp, not the big feet.
I like the big feet.
Big foots. Okay, I'm sorry, Arian.
What do you call a gaggle of Bigfoots?
A murder of Bigfoots. Yeah,
a gaggle of murder.
Well, it'd technically be like a troop. Like
a troop?
A troop of chimpanzees, right? Because they're a group of apes.
Aren't they? Isn't an army?
I think it's
an army of chimps.
I'm pretty sure it's a troop of monkeys, a troop of gorillas.
Okay.
What's a group of orcas again? Don't they have a cool one?
Pod, isn't it? Oh, that's a dolphin.
A group of chimpanzees is just called a community.
Okay.
That's boring.
Lame. Yeah.
It's baboons. It's a troop of baboons.
Okay.
Apes are a shrewdness of apes.
Ooh, I like that.
So a shrewdness of Bigfoot?
A shrewdness of Bigfoot. Yeah.
Anyway, there's actually so when I first was looking into
Wait. I'm sorry. I interrupted Arian to ask you about your whole thing that you brought up, Billy. Arian, were you saying like a database or something?
Well, like this is actually pretty interesting. Just looking at this, a bunch of bears are called a sleuth or a sloth of bears.
It's a murder of crows.
They got ravens on there. That's my favorite. You know what ravens are?
Birds are either a flock, flight, or congregation, or a volary. So they're not specific to which kind of bird.
Isn't it crow? Oh wait, you say Billy.
Crows are something cool, right?
Murder of crows.
Murder.
What
Everything
ravens?
might be.
Ravens are an unkindness.
Unkindness.
Shout
of
out!
ravens?
Shout out One Tree Hill.
Do you know that,
No. Crows are a murder. Yeah, murder of crows.
do you know that male bears are called boars and female bears are called sows?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So boars are a sounder of boars.
Oh shit!
Huh.
A dazzle of zebras is a good one too.
Huh.
Why do they
Is
need
there-
specific group titles? Like, who decided this?
That's a good question.
This one's funny. I've never heard of this one. Also, walruses are called a pod of walruses. This one's funny as shit. Wasps. It's a pledge of wasps.
Yeah, we
That's
don't need all these. Why?
No, we have the word group.
Is it like biologists that they're like, hey, we need to figure out a way to market ourselves?
People were really bored before the internet.
It's true. We were
I'm sure they have their reasons, man.
very bored.
But the question was there a reason as to why the national parks don't keep like a database of everybody that's gone missing?
Yeah. So basically all these missing 411 Can-Am missing people's group who actually are Bigfoot truthers who think that Bigfoot's stealing all these people, they point to this and say that that's the reason, an indication. But when you so basically I got into this because I was recommended to watch this documentary called Missing 411 with this guy called David Politis. And I'm watching the whole thing, and it's explaining all of these instances of people going missing, hunters, people who shouldn't go missing, who go out in with groups of people, and then like they look away for 2 seconds and the person's gone, and then they can't find any trace of them. They take dogs out, the dogs can't find them. They have these huge manhunts and can never find any trace of them. And basically, you're seeing all these and you're like, oh man, like what could it be? And then like in the last like 10 minutes of the documentary, they basically say that it's Bigfoot. And you sort of get Trojan horsed into watching this whole documentary that invests you. And then there's a certain point where they start talking about like these 3 hunters who are in this place in, you know, the Sierra Nevada mountains, but they can't tell you where it is. And then it takes a sudden weird twist where you're just like, wait a second. Like, this is a Bigfoot documentary.
Yeah. At what point can you feel when the documentary starts to shift and you're like, they're going to Bigfoot me in a second. I can feel it. This is taking a pseudoscientific turn.
Yeah. The pseudoscientific turn was when for some reason the guy's beard, whenever you see a guy with like a super like dyed beard, you know what I'm saying? Like kind of like a Billy Mays type thing.
You know that some Bigfoot shit's like, about to happen? Wait a second.
Because he kind of gives off a bit of like a, what's his face? The guy who does the Kung Fu movies, Steven Seagal.
Okay.
The guy gives off kind of a Steven Seagal type vibe. And then all of a sudden, once he was like, yeah, sometimes you can hear him in the woods. We have footage of it. And then it's like, wait a second, you had no footage for all these missing peoples, but you have footage of people like making noises in the forest.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, he's like, this can't be humans. The sound isn't like humans can't make these kinds of sounds.
Yeah. Anytime somebody shows up in a documentary with an unusual haircut or like a non-mustache facial hair pattern, I immediately kind of label that guy. I'm like, I don't think this guy's a real scientist. Sometimes you'll get a scientist that has like a curly mustache. I think that's about it. But if it's like a legit scientist and they've got mutton chops, at that point, I'm like, no, he's about to slip some Bigfoot shit on me.
So this David Politis guy is a former police officer, and he's written a bunch of books on missing 411, where he documents all these people who go missing. And it's, you know, of the 1,000 or so that have gone missing, 411 are these unsolved ones that all sort of have similar things that make them similar. And basically one of them is also just having huge boulders around where the person goes missing, like boulder fields. And then at the end of the documentary, he's like they can manipulate cell phone cameras, and that's why you can't see them anymore. And
holy shit,
they're like connected to UFOs, and like whatever the Bigfoot have like ways to not be seen, and they're like also sort of connected to aliens. And that's where it kind of lost. And you're like, oh,
oh, that's where it lost you.
Listen, you can give me something with Bigfoot, you can give me something with aliens, but it's total bullshit. When I heard that they were saying aliens and Bigfoot was working together, I was like, nope, I'm out.
Like manipulating cell phone cameras. But yeah, but some of the stories are interesting. Honestly, if you watch any of those documentaries and just like turn it off before the Bigfoot stuff came on, you'd be quite intrigued onto some of these stories, because it's a bunch of like people showing up 30 miles from where they originally started, who knew the area and shouldn't, you know, have been able to sort of disappear like they did. It's pretty good. It's pretty
what is the rational explanation, Billy's rational explanation for why some of that stuff happens?
A combination of hyperthermia causing people to take their clothes off when you get super cold in hyperthermia, you think you're on fire. So you take your clothes off and then you sometimes like fold them up and leave them places, and then end up just walking in random directions before you end up in, you know, bodies of water where they usually get swept away, because when they're just in that hyperthermia mode, they just start walking and then they hit something like a river or a stream, which ends up sweeping them away. And then some of it is, there are a lot of people who live in these disappearing areas that are not necessarily feral humans, but they're more like homeless people who live on the Appalachian Trail. And I actually met a couple of trail hikers who literally don't have houses, and they just walk on the Appalachian Trail, then the Pacific Northwest Trail and the Continental Divide, and that's just how they live. They just do laps on the trail.
So I would say that that's as close to being a feral human as possible, right?
But
they're a trail person, but trail people, I feel like trail people are kind, right?
Yeah.
Trail people, they just kind of exist to live on the trail and help people that are lost on the trail. Or like just connect with other trail hikers.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think that a lot of like the national parks do provide a place where there's not that many eyes. So like, for example, Gabby Petito can get there can be murders in those places and can cause some of the disappearances. But I do not, and technically those people, if they're living there and not outside, you could say they're feral, but I don't think they're living in cave systems and causing a bunch of stuff.
Also, did you? Oh, go ahead, Arian.
Go ahead, Maddie. Go ahead.
Oh, I didn't know if you were gonna bring this up, Billy, but the family that was found dead and the dog was dead too.
Oh yeah.
I feel like there was some shady something going on there.
I think that might just be the CO2 type stuff.
But I saw a TikTok about that too. But then the guy was like, "Do you know how much CO2 would have to be in the air, out because they were outdoors, and then they were all killed?" Like, which I guess that would be one of the only like logical explanations. But he's like, you were outside in a mountain range. Where is all of this CO2 coming from?
From the lake. Bubbles from the lake. It's all pretty weird. I think just people don't understand how for granted they take like living within 20 minutes of like society in a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you're out there, they can't believe that someone just go disappear. And also there are things that like to eat people in the national parks that we're all sort of kind of neglecting. They're bears. They're grizzly bears. So that's the big boogeyman.
Do they actually eat people? Like, is it actually like
hungry bears eat people? 100%.
Really? I thought they just like to kill. I didn't know they actually like
when they
fed on.
Yeah, when they come out of hibernation, they will eat you.
What do you think is the thing that you guys would miss the most about being, if you had to live in the middle? Let's just say you were dropped in the middle of Yosemite. You had a tent, you had a sleeping bag, you had a pillow, you had like a little camp stove with some propane. What would you miss the most about being out there?
Walls, nigga.
Yeah, we do take walls for granted.
1,000%. You know, I was
walls work. Arian Foster.
Facts, they do all day. I was outside, and have you ever been outside in Houston during like summertime?
Yeah,
like at night, like right before the sunset. These fucking mosquitoes and these bugs, they're just different. They're just a different kind of breed. And like when you're out in nature like that, you don't really recognize how important walls are to get like insects off you and how much they bother you. Like you see National Geographic and you see lions or something like that, right? And they just got flies draped all over them. And they just cool with that. And every now and then they switch their tail like it's all good. Like that shit bothers me. Like it just, there's no way I could function. I would just be like swatting all day. Like half the day I'm swatting.
Yep. I think walls are really underrated. People are like, well, you need shelter to protect you against bears, protect you against the elements, things like that. We don't think about the insects. You don't think about spiders just crawling on you all day. You don't think about ants just invading your jeans that you're wearing. And I think the only way to keep mosquitoes out, what can you do? Just like build a fire? I think mosquitoes don't like smoke.
Yeah, they don't like smoke.
But still, I'm sure that a few of them are going to find their way around the smoke and get on you.
Have a ton of like citronella. Is that what it is? Citronella candles?
Yeah, but you're in nature. There's no citronella.
DEET.
Oh yeah.
There's no DEET.
There's no DEET.
Yeah, I think the bugs might be the worst part.
Yeah.
About just being dropped in the middle of nature.
That's what be getting people like on them like Naked and Afraid shows, like all them shits. It be the bugs, bro. Like it be they can't sleep because they're getting bit. Like it's like the elements. They can survive, but it's the nighttime at bugs. That's when like most people break. They're like, I can't sleep, cannot sleep.
I'd like to go camping. I haven't been camping since college. It's fun.
Really?
Yeah. What was that really? Like you think that people just go camping all the time?
I've never been camping.
Never.
No.
Not even as a kid?
My family isn't that outdoorsy.
It's something you got to do for sure.
I've been like to like the woods.
Macrodosing should go camping.
Yeah, I've never slept in a tent outdoors. I had a phase when I was little where I'd set up a tent in my house, full tent in my house, but I would never go in the woods.
We should set up a camping trip.
Where
sit
do you
around
go
the
camping
fire,
around
tell
here?
ghost stories.
Like, would you have
I'd
to
be
go
down.
upstate?
north.
There's some requirements.
We could go glamping.
Yeah, I want to go glamping.
I don't know what that is. What is that?
Glamorous camping.
That I'm with that. I will
Upper
be
middle class
bringing
camping.
I will be bringing my firearm.
Uh-huh.
I will
Okay.
be
Hell yeah.
20 30 minutes. Like, I need to be able to see civilization.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going deep in no fucking woods. No, I will need walls. Like a cabin or some shit, dog.
What about
Like,
an RV?
Cabin
Not-
seems like a nice compromise.
all day. Cabin, RV. I'm in.
What about one of those? Have you guys seen those things on social? This might be a girl thing that I'm bringing up, but those getaway houses, like,
Yeah,
The small ones.
I looked
Yeah.
into that. Yeah.
Or maybe the van.
or maybe we go vanning.
Yeah, honestly,
I'm out on vanning.
Yeah,
You
that
guys are
would-
gonna kill me.
that whole Gabby case like really ruined vanning.
Yeah.
What is vanning?
Well, so basically what happened is there's a bunch of social influencers who have been, driving cross country, living out of a van.
Like redesigning.
Yeah, redesigning old like cargo vans,
Yeah.
like making them, livable.
It's honestly awesome.
And
That sounds
Yeah,
amazing.
until you get killed.
yeah, and they've all been basically living off of royalties from whatever content they're producing and just living out of the van, posting pictures, living the influencer lifestyle. And then two of them who are a couple, one of them ends up killing the other one and is now on the run. And
Oh,
so-
you mentioned that last
Yeah.
time.
yeah,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
sort of kind of ruined the whole
Vanning.
vanning
Lower.
mystique.
Yeah.
Statistically, now is probably the safest time to go vanning.
Mm.
Right after something bad happens, right?
Dude, honestly, like,
Or it's giving people ideas.
imagine dating someone and then they end up killing you.
That would suck.
Like, how do you trust?
That's what happened at my house, man. Same
Yeah,
shit.
like, how do you you think you know somebody, then they kill you?
I can't imagine.
I'm pretty paranoid about that. Actually, I'm more often than not, I'm thinking somebody I know is gonna kill me.
Well, that's what
That's
statistically
most
would
of
happen.
the killings. Yeah.
So I'm right. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
very rarely killed by someone you like. That's where I feel like, and maybe this is a terrible thing to say. This is where I feel like a lot of serial killers fuck up. They leave like very clear and obvious patterns. It's never just killing at random. That's the best. If you went state to state, you had no connection anywhere, and you were just killing at random, you could get away with that for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Serial Killer Tips by Cooley on Macrodosing.
Mhm.
Stay
That's where
tuned where we
pro-
show you how to drown babies next
Pro
episode.
serial killer and cannibal anti-free speech show.
Hell
or you
yeah.
just do it in a national park.
Yeah. Or in the
That
zone
guy
of
did
death.
not get it. Very famously has not gotten away with it.
I know,
Well,
but
I don't know. I don't know if y'all remember this story I told y'all. Y'all, like, I said it and everybody was like, okay. Anyway, bro, I was in fucking what's the park in New York City? What's
Central
that shit?
Park.
Central.
I was in Central Park and it was nighttime and I was with my then shorty and she walked off ahead of me and I seen this dude go after her. I catch up to her and I got my eyes on buddy. And as soon as he sees me in the light, he turns around. Like, he was about to get him one. Like, that was crazy. Like, last time I told that story, I was like, cool. I almost got murdered. Nobody cares.
That's just the price of living in the best city on earth.
Is it the best city on earth?
Yeah, man, that's just New York.
You might get murdered in Central Park. Amazing.
Yeah.
That's just
Alicia
New York.
Keys sang about it.
I'm also worried if I ever, like, I had a short stint when I was on like dating apps, and I would be like, what if I die? Like, what if I just get killed? Like, that happened
Honestly,
recently. A girl was killed on a Tinder date and then
Yeah.
stuffed in a like plastic
Jesus.
box, and then they had
So
they had
specific.
it was like one of those, like, plastic storage containers, and they had security footage of the guy walking in with her to wherever they were.
Do you think
She's dead, and then he walks out with this box and it was her body in it.
so? When it comes to being out in nature, though, when you're around a bunch of people, do you get the feeling that, like, if it's just you isolated in the woods, maybe with one or two other people, you're way more likely to get paranoid when you're totally away from everything, and you start to like look at people and you're like, this person wants to kill
Like
me.
Lord of the Flies.
Yeah,
breakdown?
exactly.
That's scary. Because like, what if you literally took us? Like, we have a pretty good working relationship.
No, I want to kill you frequently.
And then we just throw it.
We openly say that though.
No, but then you just throw us outside civilization. Do you think how fast you think we break down?
I think you would kill me in the first day. I think you would
No.
kill everyone in the first day out of paranoia.
You think I would do it?
I think you'd flip
I
out.
was the only one who said that they're paranoid of other people killing them is Arian.
I don't know. I could see Billy.
Yeah.
I mean, Billy gets primal.
Absolutely.
I would be afraid that Arian would kill us for my nutrition, for my meat.
Only one
That was a
person.
joke. I'm not a cannibal. It's a joke.
Only one person is admit to bringing a gun to the camping trip.
Wait, how?
I will definitely be bringing my weapon, dog. Listen, I don't trust people. I think people always want to kill me, right? So like, matter of fact, we was in New York. I was with the homegirl, and we was riding. I think we was like in the Bronx somewhere. Like we was just train riding, right? And like some dude comes, she starts talking to this dude like for directions. I'm like, stop! What are you doing? Stop fucking talking to people. Like and that's in the city. If we're in the outskirts, if we're in the woods, I'm not a friendly camper. I'm not talking to nobody. They're gonna know where we're at. Like, no, I'm having no conversations. There will be none of that. We just handle our business in the woods and go on about our business. Like you can't invite. That's how horror movies start.
How long would Big T last before killing Billy?
I don't think Big T's got the balls to kill Billy.
Oh, you don't?
I don't. The thing is.
I agree.
Oh, wait.
I agree.
All right, you know what? Big T just straight up admitted that he would commit a murder.
That's
No,
not what I
but
said.
the thing is-
Yeah.
that's what you
The thing-
implied.
The thing is,
Wait,
I don't think
Ox.
any
Art
of
of
us
War.
have the twisted psychopathy to actually like randomly kill somebody.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
But you're
I don't think
describing.
Big T killing you would be all that random.
Well, you're describing. Well, he's describing a situation in which it's not random. Like you're out in the woods and you need fucking food.
No, but we're the thing is that what humans realized and why we're like the most advanced species is that we realize that it's
That we
actually
know of.
more beneficial to work together to get resources than it is to kill one another.
But it's more of the thing, which also has been brought up in the Gabby Petito case, where it's what like you're isolated with one or two people, and you just snap. And it's not like it's not a premeditated thing. It's you snap and do something that you may or may not have wanted to do.
So I actually think that it was his whole thing was totally premeditated.
Oh, you do.
Yeah.
My theory is that it was like a mental snap, and now he's like nervous, and that's why he's on the run.
No, because he's a huge fan of the author that wrote the Fight Club books.
Oh, and Lullaby, or is that the book he
and
was
he
reading?
wrote another book about going on a cross-country road trip with his
I saw that on.
and killing his
And
girlfriend.
killing his girlfriend, and then going
Yeah.
on the run. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, he's reenacting a book.
Right.
I mean, I know that's
He's cosplaying.
yeah, worse, but I also think he wasn't always up there, right? And he in all of his posts, they're all sort of
Posts.
eco.
Yeah, he's really into the earth.
Yeah, but like eco-terrorist
Yeah.
vibes.
Eco-fascist.
Is that the word?
That's a branch of political thought. I don't even want to say it's like political thought. It's just like basically you're kind of a terrorist. But eco-fascist, that's what the Unabomber was.
What does that mean?
It means that when you reach a point where you've become convinced that society is damaging the world so badly, and I'm not just talking about like it's not super left or super right. It's you just hate people and you hate different minority groups. You hate different groups of people and the impact that they've had on just the world around you. And the only way to survive at that point is to like kill people that are standing in the way of what you have and what you need.
Also, like
You lost me at the kill part, but up to that point, that's what I am.
But for example, this guy like hated how many tourists there were at all the national parks that he visited. And he was like, only humans could try to preserve nature, and by doing it, litter nature with too many humans.
Meanwhile, he's a human in
Yeah.
the park.
Yeah,
And he's like, what
And
the
he
fuck
walks-
is up with all
he
these
walks
people
barefoot
besides
everywhere.
me?
Do you want me to read his last Instagram caption? It actually ties in very well to what we've already been saying. So he last posted on August 13th, so a month and a half ago. And also for context, that was the day after the body cam footage that we talked about. with the domestic dispute. But he starts it. He's barefoot. I want to make it clear to everyone. He's barefoot in Moab. So it's with a bunch of rocks, and it's saying, humans are primates, great apes, in fact, but I don't know all how great we are as a species. Chimpanzees share 98.8% of their DNAs, used the wrong form of their, with humans, our closest living relative. But as I see it, every living creature is in some way our relative, even trees. Oh, okay. Only 800 million years ago, animal cells started appearing on Earth, comprised mainly of the same parts and following the same functions as plant cells, blah, yada, yada, yada. This tree doesn't require an Apple Watch. It doesn't stream its favorite shows or have a microwave oven, pay health insurance, or drink grande iced caramel macchiatos. It is just a tree, but you rarely see geese riding jet skis or wearing designer clothing either. I think if we all want breathable air and drinkable water, we all need to learn how to live with less. AKA.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with my. He was spitting facts right there, man.
I disagree with his rarely point. I've never seen a goose ride jet or wear.
But there's also
what's this guy? Where's he from?
He's from Florida.
No, he's from Long Island.
No, she's
isn't
from Long
he?
Island.
I thought he was from Long Island, and his parents moved down
maybe
to
that's
Florida.
it. Yeah, but
after
he has
he-
Florida ties.
Yeah.
Ties.
That makes sense.
But it's so hypocritical because he's doing exactly what he's pissed about. That's what I don't get.
Well, he's gone minimalist.
But he's still driving in a van, producing pollution across the
Posting
United
on
States,
Instagram.
posting on Instagram for an audience. Like,
Yeah, but he's definitely like he rejected living in a city or town.
He's
reject
rejecting
modernity.
modern society, except like he's still addicted to clout.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what that's what Henry David Thoreau was doing when he lived at Walden Pond. He went out there. He's like, you know what? I'm going to go off the grid entirely. I'm not going to talk to anybody. He lived like 2 miles from society and would go into town and like sell his shit, then go back to the cabin. Then I'm going to write a best-selling book and distribute it through all these chains of modern engineering that we have right now.
Huh.
It's pretty much the same thing.
It's the way to go, though. It's like Einstein had a book. It's called Ideas and Opinions, and that's what he's basically talking about. He's like, I love the idea of like philanthropy. I love like we're helping people. Because like I just don't like people enough to get involved with it. That's
Yeah.
basically what he was saying. I'm with him. I understand that thought process. It's like I love the fact of helping people and being involved in the society and culture. But I don't really like you, motherfucker. It just is what it is, and that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of shit that we support that we just don't feel like we support in theory, but we don't feel like taking the time to actually do anything about it.
Facts.
But I don't think that that's necessarily a hypocritical thing because there's just not enough time or energy to put an effort to like physically support and like financially support every single cause that you believe in at any given time.
Yeah, just pick a lane and be like, yeah, I support that from a distance.
Yep. I got your back morally.
Also, R.I.P. Gabby Petito.
R.I.P. Gabby.
RIP.
Yeah, it's terrible.
They
story.
found her. They found her.
Yeah, they found her remains.
Yeah, they found her remains.
So this dude's dead, right?
No.
No, I think he's living.
He's
a feral human.
He went accidentally live on his Instagram last week for like 3 seconds. And the whole thing was just the water, like the ocean.
Huh. How do you go So he was like
exactly. How do you go accidentally live?
He was trying to
throwing
post
him
to
off the
stories or
trade.
something?
No, it was alive, but well, he hasn't been active on his Instagram. And so people think that either someone was on his Instagram, like trying to help him out and like posting that to throw them off trails.
Yeah.
Or he actually did, which you can't really go accidentally live.
You have to be trying to post to your stories or something, right?
Yeah, so it would take a lot of accidents to make that happen. So people think that it was to throw
Investigators
off the trail. Someone was doing it for him, so that was just a random person with his account in like a random place, and he's completely somewhere else. Or he actually did, and he's like in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico right now.
Haven't they been searching this like crocodile infested place for like weeks now? And like this guy was like, yeah, if he was in here, he'd be dead. So you guys are wasting your time.
Yeah, they stopped searching there.
It seems so planned out.
I feel like the authorities know more than they're giving off.
Yeah, especially because they probably don't want to spook him.
Right.
Because you got to think about that.
Where would you guys go if you were to have to live outside somewhere and try to stay off the grid for as long as possible? Where do you think you'd be the happiest, or where do you think you'd survive the longest? What environment? If we're talking like in the United States.
Upper Peninsula of Michigan sounds nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
near
in
the
the summertime.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
The Great Lakes region is
Great Lakes.
always, I think, is going to be a very sought after land in the coming years.
Well, I'm from there, so they would go looking.
Well,
for me
because of the
first.
fresh water.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just went to and I just had a little vacay, right? I have a group of people I play Dungeons and Dragons with, and it's the nerdiest shit in the world, but it's really cool.
No,
man. It's
Dungeons
really cool.
Dragons is awesome. We do it on PMT sometimes.
Right, it's really fun. And so we've been playing for like a year or something like that. And they were like, let's all have a trip. And they told me, like, most of them are from Michigan. And it was like, they told me where it was going to be. I was like, yeah, I'll make the trip. And so I made a trip. And so I landed in Traverse City. Traverse City.
Cherry capital of the world.
That's the best place.
Yeah. And then we drove to Northport, and it was like this little beach house in Northport. My G, it was like one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. And I'm like, how is this a secret? Like, Upper Michigan is insanely beautiful.
Yeah,
bro.
it's cheap as fuck
gorgeous.
to buy land up there too.
Mhm.
The
Yep.
problem is if it's October through late April,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
just cold as shit up there and everything's frozen over.
Prince,
Dude.
you know what Prince
I was-
said about Minnesota and that sort of area of the world?
What'd he say?
It's the cold keeps the bad people away.
Yeah,
That's what Prince said.
you gotta want it to be there.
Or the mean people. I don't know.
I don't get happier when I'm cold though.
Yeah, I don't really know what that was about. That's why.
I was just saying this to someone the other day. When I was living in New York, I so much preferred the winter to the summer. There's no one in your way. The subways aren't as crowded. Like, yeah, it's cold, but New York, you're barely outside anyways. You're walking to a train station that's on every single corner. Like, you don't have to have a Canada Goose or anything like that.
There's-
Like, you can wear pretty much a hoodie. It doesn't really matter. And the streets are, except for the deceptive curbs that you step off all year in the spring, but for whatever reason, when it's that slush mixture,
Yep.
it goes up to your thigh.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than hot, muggy New York summer.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible.
I'm a cold. I like it's kind of opposite of my people, man. But I would much rather be cold than hot, because I feel like when you cold, you can get hot. Like, you can't get cold when you're hot. Like, there's nothing you can do. You just stuck and you sweaty and you sticky. It's like you can't wear gray ever.
Yeah, gray's bad news. You just sweat right through it.
Mhm.
I think I would probably say somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. I feel like that's mild enough, so it's usually in between 40 and 70 degrees outside. Doesn't get too cold usually. Doesn't get too hot usually. A lot of fresh water up there.
Huh.
It's nice outside. A lot of Subaru Outbacks driving around.
I feel like those Carolina regions.
Smoky Mountains.
Outer
Like-
Banks.
Yeah, like I feel like that's pretty temperate.
I think Kitty Hawk is like a national park. I know it's a national monument. There might be some national land around there where the Wright brothers flew. But yeah, the Outer Banks is really nice and pretty moderate, but it does get bad storms. It gets hurricanes.
Yeah.
Tough.
If we're confined to the outdoors, which is a strange series of words, but if we have to be outdoors, it's got to be somewhere where it's like temperature controlled, but like hurricanes are pretty tough if you're outside just staring those in the face. So I don't know.
Isn't San Diego supposed to be like the best weather in the United States?
Yeah, but there's no place to live outside there.
Oh. What about
feel like-
Denver?
San Diego is awesome though. If you ever want to be really, really pissed off, just look up what the weather is in San Diego,
I'm gonna look it
and
up.
it's just gorgeous.
All the
Denver
time. I
would,
went to high school in San Diego.
yeah. You
It's-
like it?
I love it. It's like a hidden gem. Like, people don't talk about San Diego. Like, LA is a destination spot, New York a destination spot, like all these big cities. But like San Diego is like, it's like the median between small town and big city.
Mhm.
Huh.
It's really dope, though.
It's 67 there right now.
6, of course it is.
Beautiful. Of course it is.
It's hotter. It's hotter here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're
it's
in
more
Southern
comfortable.
California.
67 is probably sunny.
Yep, sunny, 78% humidity.
Oh, that's you said 70? That's a little too high.
I was on a walk. I was on a walk here last week, so mid-September at 9 p.m. Don't kill me if you're in New York. It was 85% humidity at 9 p.m.
Yeah, it's tough.
That's so disgusting.
Although September in New York is a very underrated month.
It's awesome.
Outside, it's great. And way to go, Mad Dog. Now you just let every psycho out there know that you live in New York City.
Well, I don't want them.
Last week she incriminated herself, and this week she's just giving away her address.
She
so
dropped
nervous.
a pen.
She did ask politely not to be killed, though. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Several people commented or reached out to me saying they're legitimately nervous if someone in the government is listening to our podcast that I'm gonna get arrested. I didn't have an address.
Did you say 7 people reached out to you?
No, I said several.
I was like, why so specific? I got you.
Yeah, someone said that I clearly gave intent to avoid taxes. No, I'm literally trying to pay the taxes. It's just really hard.
We're trying our best. We are trying our best. It's the whole thing that we were saying earlier. We're trying our best with the information that we were given at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck that. Big T this bitch. Go all in with no information.
What?
I was playing Big T.
Big T, where would you live?
Rocky Mountains. What you mean?
Well, I was gonna say, is our goal just a national park with good weather? What are we going for?
It depends on what you're in the mood for.
Well, I was gonna say Smoky Mountains seems pretty fairly temperate climate, a nice East Tennessee, beautiful foliage, nice location.
Wait,
Doesn't it get crazy cold?
It gets pretty cold, but I mean nothing
Can
crazy.
Oh.
Is that where they have the triple marathon? I can't remember the name of that documentary, but the one that's you have to run 3 consecutive marathons.
I don't know about that, but
I know it's in Tennessee. It
It's
might not be the
possible.
Smoky Mountains, but I know it's Tennessee.
That sounds
Yeah,
crazy.
This is wildly unrelated, but I seen Coley flossing, and then it reminded me of one of my homegirls that was flossing, right? She was flossing, and then she had one of those, what is that called? The small ones, not the...
Dentec.
Yeah, it's a little pick, right? Comes on a little plastic thing on a string. And she flosses, and she does that, and then she eats whatever's on the string. And I was like, my nigga. And she's like, what? It's already in your mouth. Fair point. I just never have thought. I just have never thought to I've never thought to do. Is that normal? Do people do that?
I think it's probably exceptionally gross to watch somebody else do it.
Definitely.
But I probably have done it in the past. I'm just thinking back right now. I don't make a habit of doing it, but I think I probably have. But if you see somebody else doing it or you hear somebody else talking about it, it's pretty fucking gross.
Yeah, if it's on the stick for me, I just get that out of here. But if it falls off into my mouth, it feels like more of a hassle to spit it out.
Yeah. So my go-to is, and this is probably environmentally unsound, I stand in front of the faucet I use string, and then I floss, and if something's on it, I wash it off.
Yeah, that's fair. Definitely don't put that back in your mouth. That feels
Nah, that's weird. Okay, I'm sorry. That was a boggle.
Mm-hmm.
Coley, the Barkley Marathon
that's it.
is held at Frozen Head State Park in Wartburg, Tennessee, which is East Tennessee.
Okay,
And
Billy, if you're still looking for documentaries, this one's crazy.
The full course is 100 miles, and the race is limited to a 60-hour period. If runners complete 60 miles, this is known as a, quote, fun run.
Oh, jeez.
So it's 60 miles.
No, it's 100 miles.
100 miles, and you have 60 hours?
Yes.
So what's that pace?
It would actually be a
mile and a half.
Maybe a decent episode, but it was based on, I can't remember which old-timey famous criminal was locked up and where they found him. And that's what they where the police finally found him. And they were it was kind of like when the 2 guys broke out of Alcatraz, could they have swam to shore?
The Barkley course was designed by Gary Cantrell. His idea for the race was inspired upon hearing about the 1977 escape of James Earl Ray, the assassin of Martin Luther King Jr. from nearby Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary.
So he got inspired by James Earl Ray's escape and decided to commemorate that with the marathon.
Ray covered
because the reason the jail is where it is because the terrain around it is so unforgiving. And so like the jail kind of polices itself by being so like, even if you broke out of it, much like Alcatraz, there would be nowhere for you to go and survive, if I'm remembering correctly.
Ray covered only 8 miles after running 55 hours in the woods. Cantrell said to himself, I could do at least 100, and thus the Barkley Marathon was born.
Right. So it was like two guys who grew up as cross-country runners who were basically mocking this guy for only getting 8 miles in 55 hours. He was like, listen, if you gave me that kind of head start, I could easily get 100 miles away. And that's where the race came. They used the same terrain. It's like impossible to register for. You have to get invited and you have to like, there's no entry fee. It's the guy who runs it will charge you like basically whatever new clothing item he needs on a given year. He's like, I'm out of undershirts. So the 50 or 100 people who participate will all have to bring undershirts. And then like, you can run it however you want. You go clockwise, then counterclockwise, then clockwise again throughout the course. The course is not marked. There are random books that the guy hides throughout the course that you have to rip out a page of to bring back as proof that you hit every checkpoint. It's an absurd race. It's the most absurd race that exists in the planet.
Jesus. I don't know why anybody would ever do that. Why anyone ever runs more than like 5 miles ever is a mystery to me. I don't get it.
It's been completed 18 times by 15 runners as of 2021.
What about the super marathons? Have you guys seen those? They have like in Baja California.
Yeah.
I think they've got some crazy outdoor races where people run shoeless.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the people who try and get invited to this one in Tennessee, and when they show up, they're like, "Fuck this! I'm going back to Baja."
Damn. Big T, you want to give it a shot?
I do not. No. I feel like the race that's most up my alley. It's in North Carolina. It's like it's either a 5 or a 10K, and in the middle of it, you have to eat a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts. I feel like I'm just able enough that I could run that distance, and I would destroy people at eating the donuts. So I think that's that's my race.
There's so I'm looking up the history of the Barkley marathons right now. There's a website out there. I forget the name of the online forum, but it's something, I think it might be Runner's World Forum, and they are the best people at solving any sort of mystery on the internet. It's like them and then Hogville's Plane Trackers. Those are the two best at what they do. The Runner's World forums, they catch every cheater that's ever competed in these races because people log their finishing times on there. And then the people on the forums go back, compare their certain splits compared to their training splits and things like that. And they've documented like serial cheaters and caught some of the best runners in America and like outed them as being complete and total frauds when it comes to their times. I want to see what they have to say about the Barkley marathons, if they're able to track people, because it sounds like you're not like logging your stuff in on your Whoop app with your GPS. Like, it's old school. You're tearing out pictures of a book or pages of a book. That's probably pretty tough to cheat at.
Right. Yeah. Because how would you know what books there are? I think you have to get corresponding pages to, I'm pretty sure you're given like a list of pages to get. It's not even just like whatever page is the top one you rip. So like it's a good documentary. It was on Netflix, might be on Amazon right now. It's certainly available to be streamed. But it's
Where Dreams Go to Die, Gary Robbins and the Barkley Marathons.
I thought it was just called the Barkley Marathon.
Okay, because there's one on YouTube right now that has 2.3 million views. That might be a good one too. Everyone who competes in this race that I'm seeing right now has a giant beard. So
yeah,
a
lot of beards.
I like that a lot. Billy, you got anything more about disappearances in national parks? I do like the theory that Teddy Roosevelt set them up.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to either keep people out or keep people in.
Yeah.
I don't know which one it is yet.
I was really interested at that thing Coley mentioned last week about the place in that national park where like it's basically lawless.
Yeah.
The zone of death?
Yep.
That's crazy.
It's like sort of the loophole was sort of closed with the guy who shot the elk. That went to the Supreme Court.
The Supreme
So-
Court ruled on it.
Yeah, TikTok's just been going crazy on national parks lately since this whole murder case.
Well, we're gonna get a bunch of copycats now.
Oh shit.
Not necessarily copycat killers, but just people that are thinking that they're solving mysteries out there
Yeah.
that aren't actually real. There probably will be somebody that gets lost trying to make TikToks about trying to find somebody who's lost in a national park.
Well, Dog the Bounty Hunter is hunting the guy down.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Imagine you're so in deep with something like that that Dog the Bounty Hunter is after you.
that
I'd give up.
terrifying.
Shit my pants.
Registration doesn't appear to be open yet, but does anybody want to run the Krispy Kreme challenge with me in February?
I'm gonna pass.
It's 2.5.
What is it?
So it's in Raleigh, North Carolina. You run 2.5 miles. You eat 12 Krispy Kreme donuts, then you run 2.5 miles back.
Oh, I can do that 100%.
Oh, you gonna shit yourself or throw up or something?
I think that'd be a good podcast retreat.
I don't like long distance running, man. I don't like running at all, actually. So I'm gonna pass on that.
Neither do I, but I do love eating donuts. So
We could just go get some donuts, my nigga.
yeah, but this would be a funny video.
It would be
That's
a funny
true.
video.
That's
you're
true.
not
It would
wrong.
be funny. It would be funny.
Wait, are they still doing the vaccine Krispy Kremes if you're vaxxed?
I don't know. I think that was probably a limited time thing. I can't imagine that they kept that going for forever. They probably run out of donuts at some point.
Yep.
So we're all cleaned up on the national park things.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's more of like it's not a statistical anomaly. Anomaly.
There we go.
Like out of all the people who disappeared and there was no trace, like it's not statistically different than the rest of the United States.
All right.
These people just went missing in the woods.
Well, you guys want to switch over to the nano dosing, the last ever voicemail nano dose?
Yeah, do you want to do underwear?
Yeah, we'll do Big T's underwear. Big T.
Wait, we getting rid of the voicemails?
No, we're
Did you
gonna.
not
Did you miss
listen
it?
to the
I know,
whole-
but are we still gonna do voicemails?
We'll do the
Okay.
voicemails in this episode.
in the show. Pay attention, Billy. God damn.
We just said we weren't doing them anymore.
This is the last time that we will
Nobody said
have
that.
voicemails in the nano dosing. From this point forward, we're going to be reviewing the Art of War chapter by chapter in the nano dosing.
What happens when we get through Art of War?
We'll have to find another book.
Oh. Do we do like Art of the Deal? We just do
Just different arts.
We're just doing the arts.
Art Thursday. All right, Arian, what color is it?
a lot of gray today.
Black, homie.
You said black?
Black. What is that? That's blue.
Light blue.
Damn. Light blue.
I think
Shit.
blue might be the most frequent color. You have a lot of
It
blues,
is.
don't you?
It is.
Yeah.
I'm starting to narrow it down.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in to this week's Macrodosing. We love you guys.
Quickly, before someone handed me that box, it was for you. Do you want to open it on the show? It's from
Yeah.
the Washington football team.
Yeah, let's see what we got here.
Oh, wow.
It's
I
time
feel like
for
unboxing,
another
yeah.
unboxing. It's time for another unboxing.
Wait, what is
For
this?
another unboxing.
PFT got a PR package from the Washington football team.
Let's see what's in the box. Oh, it's got a seal on it.
What is that from?
What?
It's Frank the Tank.
Frank's unboxing videos. It's time for another unboxing. Okay.
Big game this week for the football team.
It's always a big game. Falcons. That's
Yeah.
right. It's rivalry week.
Yeah.
Me versus Big T.
And then the next week is the Jets.
You want to do a mayor's bet on a Big T?
A marriage bet?
A mayor's bet. Like, you know how mayors always bet each other?
Oh,
Like,
MAYOR.
I'll send you one of our famous pretzels.
I don't put my faith in the Atlanta Falcons.
That's smart.
Mark, yeah.
Genius. Oh, wow.
Are you guys gonna ever throw to Kyle Pitts?
It seems unlikely.
Let's see what we got here. We got some dry fit shirts, Washington football team. They got my size, extra medium. A polo shirt that said, it says fan ambassador, embroidered
Love
fan
that.
ambassador on there.
Wow.
I like this is my official kit, my full kit. So a visor. I've never been a visor guy, but I might have to become a visor guy. What is this? What is this? A little tote. I got a little tote bag here. What does it say?
It's
Oh,
like
it's just
so-
it's a bunch of different jerseys. It looks like a Chris Cooley jersey and maybe a Jason Campbell. I don't know. Legends. All right. Well, that was unboxing. Oh, a water bottle. I need that for hydration. Okay. We'll tune into nanodosing, and we will see you guys next week. Big episode next week, and big nanodosing next week. Love you guys.